With only 2 points separating two drivers for the points lead, a pass through Charlotte takes a turn west in the path to a Monday Night Racing Championship to Tennessee for a meeting with Racing's Coliseum. We're live from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway in Bristol, Tennessee. We welcome you to the 6th race of the Season 7 Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Mach10 Digital and the running of the Highland Homes Roofing 250. We're glad to have you join us once again on Podium Esports, where alongside Dylan Connolly and Scott Scheib, my name is Kenneth Wendell. Ryan Bauer is our producer. As always, he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Dylan, we'll start off with you. First time we see Bristol in a very long time in Monday Night Racing. We bring the trucks here to the last great Coliseum. We've seen a lot over the first couple of races. First 5 have been rather interesting. What have you noted so far that could play a role into tonight's race at Bristol?
Well, you know, these guys like to play bumper cars every once in a while. There's been a lot of really good long runs in all of our races this year, but there have been a couple of times in each race where they just like to, you know, see how much damage they can put on these cars and still run them. And we're at the Coliseum, the last great Coliseum, if you will. So I venture to say I think it'll be a little more tame with the new rules that they've implemented this week involving EOLs and other penalties involving loss of qualifying privileges for the next week. But we'll see how it goes today. That's what I fully expect. I expect hard racing, but I mean, they're going to lean on each other.
Physicality going to be the biggest word of use tonight, Scott, and Bristol Motor Speedway is the first short track of Season 7 here in Monday Night Racing competition. Bristol's a very interesting venue. What kind of challenge will that pose for the drivers tonight?
No doubt, Kenneth. It's going to be a race to the finish. There are probably going to be many cautions. It's just going to be an attribution race. Presley Sora said it last week. He said this is going to be a race of survival, and that couldn't be closer to the truth. That's just what we're going to see today. We're going to see how guys can move between the top and bottom lane, because one thing I love about Bristol, it's not your normal short track. You can run the bottom, but later in the run, the top will come in. So today we'll see top and bottom racing, so it's going to be interesting for sure.
To use that famous quote, it's Bristol, baby. We always get to see Bristol at its full form every time we come here, but for Monday Night Racing, competitors tonight will be somewhat of an oddball. This is the entire schedule for Season 7, and like I said, the first short track is tonight at Bristol. We had James Bickford complete a back-to-back win 2-race stretch where he got the W at Watkins Glen with the Pro 2 trucks. Gen 4's at Charlotte last weekend. Dylan, it's been big so far throughout this regular season. We're starting to wind things down. We're only a couple of weeks away from early December, where Atlanta would decide the 16 drivers to make the playoffs.
Yeah, those playoffs are going to be fun to watch. I noticed a lot of 4s coming up here. You got GT4, Pro 4, and the Gen 4 coming up over the next 5 races or so. We're on the truck tonight, however, but, you know, we've had 4 winners in the first 5 races. James Bickford's been on a bit of a hot streak, but, you know, depending on if you keep your truck clean tonight, you know, anyone in the field can win this race. And I think next week will be the one where you'll kind of probably know who the winner is, not really early on, but you'll have an idea of who's going to be competitive in that. And then who knows about Wild West in Atlanta, as we'll take a look at our points here.
They're all wild cards, and with James Bickford winning 2 races, he's picked up 5 wins in the last 6 months of the series, which includes the summer series just a couple of months ago. But the top 2 are separated by just 2 points. James Bickford being able to take over the points lead last week at Charlotte. Adam Cabot not too far behind. Neither is Presley Sora, Scott, who you alluded to just a little bit earlier, but we mentioned the top 16 making the point standings and the playoffs. These last 4 races until the playoffs begin are going to be monumental.
That's right. It's going to be close racing. I'm so excited to see it. We're just going to see what we got.
And we'll look down through the top 16. This is where the cutoff stands. So Ford Martin currently holds the last spot in the playoffs by 4 over Corey Deucer out of the Speed Factor camp, who gained 2 spots in standings last week at Charlotte. But one thing to note there, Dylan, a certain name, Chase Cabry, only 1 top 10 to his credit in Season 7. Compare that to last season, where in only 2 races he picked up his first Monday Night Racing win. It's a bit odd to see the Florida native so far down the list, but he's only 5 points out, so that's good news that he's still got some time in order to make a playoff push.
Yeah, that's one thing that's really stuck out, is that Chase really hasn't done bad, but he hasn't been himself normally. I mean, he's finished like, I want to say he doesn't have a top 10, obviously, or excuse me, he has 1 top 10, but all of his finishes are like 12th, 13th, 11th. I mean, he's right there, and it seems like he's been putting together decent finishes, which if you keep racking those up, you'll be in good shape as you head to the playoffs.
Well, you said 11th. That's exactly where Chase Cabre finished last week in the Highland Homes Roofing 200 at Charlotte. He just barely missed out on the top 10 to foe Alex Monteferrante. Well, foe, but also teammate in the same vein. Both of them are still looking for top 16 points eligibility. And Scott, we get the trucks tonight. This is the first time we see the trucks since last season at Chicagoland. Safe to say it's been quite a while, but these trucks have a lot of downforce, not as much power, but still a rather interesting truck to drive as opposed to the regular cars we see.
That's right. I love the truck. I've been driving it a lot this past week, especially at Bristol, and you'll find that this thing is all over the board. You can have it loose, you can have it tight, but one thing is driving matters, obviously, as we say, but these things aren't easy. They're not your normal Toyota, Ford, Chevy that you're going to drive on the road. They are race trucks, and not to be confused. So these drivers will have their hands full tonight for sure.
Gonna have a lot of fun with these trucks, and a lot of times when we see those vehicles, we see them on dirt surfaces. And while we have raced at Bristol dirt before, Dylan, Bristol Motor Speedway asphalts, we haven't seen it in a very long time.
Yeah, it's really two different beasts. It's the exact same track, except one's just covered in dirt. As simply as you can put it, but it's a different beast, and we've seen these trucks race at this track in both different kinds of ways, and it's going to be real interesting to see. They mentioned earlier, the bottom's going to be the good line, then the top, and then the bottom. I mean, it's going to be shifting all around all night.
And for Bristol to have multiple lanes, like Scott alluded to just a little bit earlier, you have a lot to deal with here with the progressive banking at 26 to 30 degrees on this 0.53 mile, 0.85 kilometer oval in Bristol, Tennessee. Feels somewhat like a stadium as opposed to an actual stock car racing venue, but indeed, it is a lot of fun to drive, and it'll provide a significant opportunity for drivers to get some beating and banging through and obviously play some implication strategies when it comes down to gaining some points and the way to do it over the course of tonight's 250 lapper. Well, race control Michael Hall is getting ready to bring the drivers out for qualifying. And one thing, Scott, that is very interesting about MNR qualifying is, number one, we get to broadcast it, so we get to feel and sort of see the drama exemplify itself in a bit over the course of the session. But now we have drivers on track now. We're starting with Bailey Turner in the 5. They get only 2 laps to complete it. Puts a lot of pressure on these guys.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Dylan.
Oh, you're all good, man.
Well, one thing is, we'll see different kinds of laps. We're going to see these guys, they're going for it. But, in the race, they're going to be saving tire. We don't think of it as an abrasive track, but, no matter what, that is a concrete surface. I went to Bristol back in the fall recently with the NASCAR trucks, and this surface, it's not as smooth as you think. It may be concrete, but it's still going to need tires. So we're going to see a really fast lap here by Bailey Turner, 4.8.9, and we're just going to see how it goes. So they're running fast laps.
At the benchmark lap for Bailey Turner, 14.889, all of that while hugging the bottom, rather 8.69 for Turner. So the 5 truck will put it in for qualifying, and we'll see exactly who will be next. That will be Chase Cabre, Dylan, the driver that we mentioned just on the outskirts of the playoff eligibility, just by 5 points. Race control will send him the giveaway, and the driver of the 39, the Florida native, will take himself to the high banks here at Bristol and go for these 2 laps. For Cabre, how important is a race like this, Dylan, to try to get a top 10 and be able to fully cement himself in that playoff conversation?
I think as long as he's getting, it don't necessarily have to be a top 10. If it's close to a top 10, that would really help. But if he gets a clean race, doesn't cause any issues, doesn't have any penalties in the next couple of weeks, I think he'll be in good shape for the playoffs. I mean, you just keep, as Corey LaJoy says, just keep stacking pennies. As long as you keep stacking pennies and you're in good positions, I think you'll have a good shot at making the playoffs and then making some noise in the playoffs. But I fully expect Chase to have a good race this evening.
And tonight, he's got a pretty good qualifying time. That goes to the top of the board, 14.687. He had an 8.18 on the lap before. This one way quicker. So the 39 to the top of the board, albeit only 2 trucks on the grid. So we'll have a couple of more drivers, of course, left to go, waiting for the line. And they're going to give the green flag to Will Rogers this time by. So the Hawaiian for the Hog Tamers team will come out, be on the high side of the racetrack, and he'll try and arc it down and get his lap through. Roger Caruth and Blake McCandless, I'm not sure whether they're going to be qualifying, but based on the qualifying order, it goes from the reverse practice speed. So Scott, if you do get the fastest time in practice, you are the last to qualify. But for guys like Rogers, who put in one of the slower laps in practice, now has to qualify first. What goes through your mind as a driver as you try to put in laps here and make sure that you've got a line to give you the fastest lap?
You're just trying to focus. You're really trying to roll the corner. You know, here at Bristol, you're not going to be on the brakes much. That's a 24-degree ranking when you run the bottom, 28 on the top. Here in qualifying, we'll probably see mostly the bottom, but you're not on the brakes much. So you're getting in, you're braking just a little, but about 1/3 into the corner, you're off the pedal, rolling, getting ready to get on the gas, getting as hard as you can without sliding up to the wall, just trying to run the perfect lap as we see a 14.96. We'll see what the next one is, how he's going to do. We'll see a 15.4, so that 14.9 will be his best, but it's just really about rolling the bottom and not overdriving it.
And a good lap there for Rogers, though. That will put him so far third in qualifying. We'll get to the next driver. That is the number 97. Actually, the number 4. The 97 will be right after the 4 of Brett Baldeck, a driver out of Rochester, New York. As he comes through for his laps, takes the high banks, and we've seen many different lines already on display, Dylan, whether some guys like to use the high lane, use that momentum off the corner to dart down closer to the apron, or if they just want to hug the bottom all the way through. We'll see exactly what the 4 will employ here. Just tries to slide it up, keep it in the middle, so it seems to be a rather tidy line for Baldeck this time on his first lap.
I think it has its perks to run either one of the lines, either the top or the bottom, but Brett right here is really the first one I've seen run kind of that middle line. But I think it's an advantage almost to be one of the first guys to go out and qualify, because this is a green racetrack. I mean, there's not going to be a whole lot of rubber built up, and as you go later into the qualifying session, as Brett's going to lay down a 14.971, as you get later into qualifying, there's going to be more rubber on the racetrack, even though there's only 30 or so cars that are running 2 laps at a time. That still adds up.
And so for Baldeck, he puts in the 4th fastest time with the 4 drivers putting in qualifying times. And now the first of many speed factor trucks that we're seeing here, at least next up on the table. Cabri was the first. Monteferrante in the 97 is the second here in his Ford F-150. And for Monteferrante, he's going to get this outlap here and get to the start-finish line. Very quick laps here, Scott. You really have little time to work with. And while we've talked about qualifying laps at many of the other tracks on the schedule, 1.5 milers, road courses, 2.5-mile ovals, whether it be Indianapolis or Daytona, you have a lot of time to think about the qualifying. But here at Bristol, you just got to dash and go, as the first lap for Monteferrante is a 14.854, good enough for second.
Absolutely. This track is daunting. You know, those high banks, they're scary. This really is a coliseum. You are low down in there. You are flying fast. Like we said, you're not much on the brakes, so you're really flying through it, as Monteferrante goes second below Chase Cabri. So you're just flying through. It's nerve-wracking, and you're right, it does go by fast. So you're just trying to do the best you can. And for me, I know that when I'm driving, qualifying is the most nerve-wracking, because you're just trying to put down your absolute best in only 2 laps, which is such a short time. You're right.
You know what, for me, when I'm on iRacing, when I have 2 laps, I feel like my life's over. As soon as I hit the wall, it's done. I mean, I'm not as good as these guys here on the sim, but definitely watching these guys put in 2 laps makes me feel a little more comfortable about my confidence in myself. But here we'll have the next driver, the driver of the 30, Christopher Tate, one of the drivers from 3F Racing, the camp that gave Ryan Vargas those opportunities to run in the Euro NASCAR Series at Circuit Zolder. And then just a couple of weeks ago, it looks like it slapped to the outside wall out of turn 2. So for Tate, looks like this lap will not count for the 30. Did not even get to put in a full lap, and he'll slow it down on the apron. Looks like he might just abort his qualifying time in general. So the 30 will come to a complete stop. He will take it to pit road, and Tate in the 30 will not be able to put in a time for qualifying. We should have Cole Cabri in the 51 next up on the board. And Dylan, for Cole, he's definitely put up a stout season. He finished inside the top 10. He finished 7th last week at Charlotte with the Gen 4s, a combo we knew he was definitely talented in, but to see him here with a truck at Bristol, going to be interesting to see how he can keep his momentum up as he's hitting the brakes, hitting the gas, just trying to warm up those tires.
So he's going to go down pit road again. Very interesting strategy here by Cole Cabry. It's almost looks like the car's sputtering, but he's hitting the brakes. So very, very interesting what he's doing.
You can see, Dylan, right by he's doing that braking deal, you can see the camber in the wheel. When he hits the brake, the left front really dips down. So you can just see how much camber is in the setups for these cars tonight.
So I see Mon and Ramen on the track.
Yeah, Mon and Ramen. I was about to say truck number 44 has made his way onto the racing surface, and the mechanic for Venturini Motorsports, as a matter of fact, 44 will come out of turn 4, cross the line for his first lap. That one's pretty fast, 14.845. So bring the 44 just behind Chase Cabry on qualifying, but still one more lap left. The 44 hugs the apron at the exit of turns 3 and 4. In this second lap, will it be faster? Answer is yes, but just by 100th, 14.835 for the 44, and a great lap for Monin Ramen as here comes Cole Cabry out on the track.
And he's doing that thing again where he's just really loading up the car and then slamming on the brakes. I don't know what exactly is going on. I guess he's not going to be able to go. They reset. He reset his car. There's a little bit of a miscommunication, I guess, between a lot of the drivers and race control. A lot of them are having issues being able to hear race control, and down to the drivers that are down on the track currently. So that's we're gonna see if they can get that ironed out. But
I believe he just got word here, Cabry did, from race control, that they're going to try and switch up the order. So they're going to allow Christopher Tate to get an extra lap in, or at least another attempt at it. He did hit the outside wall, but I believe requested a reset before it was all said and done. So Tate will have a second chance here to put in a lap. And then next should be Cole Cabry in the 51. Then we'll have Ford Martin right after. So they were trying to officially organize the order, but here comes the 30 back out onto the track. And Scott, we see that a lot when drivers get a little over eager here at Bristol, where they can put in the throttle, that truck will send it up the hill and it'll go right into the outside wall. And while Tate gets a little closer, does slap it. Not sure if that will invalidate his lap, but for Tate, he's going to look to keep it a little cleaner this time by.
It's extremely rare in racing that you get a second chance, so Tate is going to give this everything he's got just to put a lap down. Let's see. He's going to put a 14.9, going to spin at the end. He's going to give it a 14.9. That's going to put him 6th, currently below Will Rogers. That is definitely better than not putting a time in at all, but probably not the time that he wanted, Kenneth.
And they only gave him one lap, in the accordance that the fact that he did put in an actual lap before slowing down after he hit the wall. So they gave him that one lap to at least complete. He puts in that time 14.940. That'll put him 6th on the charts. Here's Cole Cabry in the number 51 as he goes through. Not a driver in the top 16 in point standings. That, of course, does factor in the amount of starts he's made so far and some of the finishes that he's been certainly put to over the season. It's been pretty tough, Dylan, for the driver of the 51. He's been garnering momentum as of late. We'll see what he can do on this opening lap, hugging the bottom again, right to that apron in turns 3 and 4. And the bright yellow Ford F-150 will cross the stripe. His first lap comes in. We'll see when it times in, but I believe it might have been invalidated. So
yeah, they didn't clear his black flag.
Not able to put in a lap.
So apparently he was DQ'd. Race control didn't clear his black flag, so there's a big confusion there. So they're saying that he went out of turn qualifying, but I don't see how he went out of turn if it's based on, slowest to fastest in practice, and now they're having a discussion about it. So
with all the switch-ups, I'm not sure he knew when to go.
I mean, they were trying to organize it as best as they could, and I've been watching DJ Cummings, one of the admins in the series, try to officially line up everybody by number. He did have the 51 of Cole Cabry shortly before the 07 of Ford Martin. So once again, the 51 will have to do a little pace lap in pit road, and he'll try and line himself up again. He's still in conversation with some of the admins, just trying to figure out what is actually going on so that Cole Cabry can officially put in a lap. But they will let Ford Martin go regardless, and so the Mach10 Digital Chevrolet Silverado will bring itself onto the concrete surface, and he'll make his way. Now, we talked about him, Dylan, on our point standings graphic. Ford Martin comes into this race 4 points above the top 16 cut line. Martin is going to need a pretty good race here tonight from Bristol.
Okay, they're still having issues here because Ford Martin is now on track and they haven't cleared his black flag and he's ran a full lap. So I think they're going to try to make sure that they have this all in order and all set up correctly. But it's a real interesting situation. This is something that you can run into when you're doing single car qualifying, is you have stuff like this pop up, but especially at a track that's really small. So.
And we really haven't encountered that many issues, Dylan, on the bigger tracks because it's certainly easier to tell distance, certainly easier to get the line through it. And again, Scott, that's why we talk about Bristol being such a unique challenge, being a short track and being the first short track we encounter this season. The factor that qualifying does somewhat feel the ripple effect of the series coming back to the last great Coliseum.
Absolutely. And, even when I talk about earlier about those two lines, even with those two racing lines during the race, it's difficult to move up. It's hard to get past guys. People are going to be hugging the bottom. You're going to be side by side for who knows how many laps. So qualifying is extremely important here as we see guys running different lines. We saw just in that lap that Ford Martin got, we saw him entering high, then cutting back low. So it's interesting to see guys going for different lines, trying to get the fastest time so that, they don't have to pass as many guys during the actual race.
And that'll matter dearly here, Dylan, with these NASCAR trucks, because more than anything, these vehicles provide a lot, and I mean a lot, of dirty air. It can be very hard to stay behind a truck and continue to keep up speed. You'll start to slow down and you'll feel the handling and aero effects as well. And we look at how that, of course, will affect the race. But in qualifying, now we've got Cole Cabry out on track. So the Florida native will finally be able to put in his 2 laps. Having the black flag cleared by race control, he comes out of turn 4, finally going to be able to put in at least somewhat of a time. And he goes for second, just behind Chase, 14.691, and that's all she wrote for Cole Cabry.
Yeah, I think that they finally figured out what the issue was. So there's a rule in the Monday Night Racing rule book. When you're asked to queue on pit road, you are not allowed to reset your car. So there was an issue where they were out of order by one truck, and Cole, his monitor turned off, Ford's monitor turned off. That was weird. Got a lot of stuff going on. But since he reset his car, it was basically considered that he basically was going to take an EOL and just start at the back. Well, it was because of a lot of confusion. So because of that, Gary Sexton and everyone, Michael Hall and Race Control, they got everything sorted out as had a lot of issues for Ford Martin there. But that's what the issue was, and they have it all rectified, and we're back in order now.
And the 07 did slap the outside wall, had that issue with the monitor going off, and I believe he is just going to take a spot near the rear of the field, so he will not elect for another try at qualifying. So we'll get to the next driver. This is the number 46 of Stephen Ellis, one of the few Canadians in this series out of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And for Ellis, he goes right to the back straight away. Will log in his first lap. Stickers and scuffs on his Chevrolet Silverado. Beautiful scheme tonight. The yellow, purple, and black here for the 46 of Ellis. He crosses the line for the lap. It looks like that will not be one officially put in, but might just be an outlap here for Ellis. He'll dive into 3 and 4, just a little bit higher than the main line at the very bottom, but he'll try and dart it down before getting to the start-finish line. His lap should clock in at 14.980. So for Ellis, I believe that first lap didn't necessarily count, but his second surely did. That puts him 9th on the sheets, Scott.
Yeah, he would have loved to have had that first lap. It looked pretty quick, but, a 14.98 is not bad at all. He's going to be charging through the field, and, with knowing Stephen Ellis, I believe that he can do that. So it's not the qualifying he would have loved, but...
Oh! Whoa! That was Jordan Buster in the 8, who just got loose, chasing it up the hill, got into the outside wall, and the Spider-Man 2 machine certainly not clinging onto any webs that lead to a fast qualifying lap right now. Buster gonna still prance on regardless, and he'll try to put in this second lap. He does have at least one more opportunity, so a cleaner one this time by, but a very small mistake sent Buster into the outside safer barrier, this time out of turn 4. Buster will cross the line, and that comes in 14.983, just a hair shorter. And to get into the top 9, Stephen Ellis still ahead by 3/1000ths of a second. Next up on the charts, Dylan, DJ Cummings in the 10. And boy, have we talked a lot about DJ throughout the course of Monday Night Racing. He is one of the pillars of this series, and in many combos, including this one, he seems to perform quite well. Sometimes when you don't expect him, that's when he starts to arrive on the scene. DJ Cummings comes off of a 14th place finish last week at Charlotte.
Yeah, I mean, he just kind of hangs around. He never gets in any trouble. He never gets too far. You know, he never causes any issues, at least that I've seen, but he's just real quiet, kind of lays in the weeds, and then pounces when he's able to get a few extra positions. So, I mean, DJ's always been a solid driver in this series, but any kind of race that requires a lot of attrition or straying out of trouble, as he puts a P4 on the board right now at a 14.849, he tends to do a pretty good job if that's what he has to do.
So the eNASCAR Ford F-150 puts himself right inside of the top 4. Monteferrante just behind him. Monin Raman still quicker by just a couple of thousandths of a second. So here comes the 0-1. This is Josh Slate, who comes off of a 19th place finish with the Gen 4s at Charlotte just 1 week ago. And for Slate, gonna look for a pretty clean lap here. And that one's pretty fast. 14.802. For Slate, he creeps near the outside wall, not going to get into it. Might have been a little slower this time by, but he arcs it into 3 and 4. Can Slate's second lap be any better as he crosses the line? That one will not. So a 14.802, Scott, puts Slate in third. What a lap.
He was going for it on that one. With that first lap, he got a little loose off 4. It gave him a little bit of a slower lap on the second one, but it didn't really matter much. That puts him in third currently. It's so interesting. All these times are in the 14.8s, but we've got the Cabri brothers up in the 14.6s, and I'm wondering who can join them.
And we'll see if the 41 is next on the board, whether he can break himself into the top 5. 41 goes way up high near the Geico restart zone at 3 and 4. He'll try to put in his first lap. That one pretty quick to start. 14.830. Stallneck running the high line here all the way around. They're definitely different to what we've seen in the past couple of drivers where they've run the middle or the very bottom of the 41, taking all that momentum up high. His second lap, not faster at all. 14.830 puts him fourth.
Yeah, that was a real solid lap. You know, it's starting to look like that the track is gaining more grip as we go along here. In practice, it's kind of opposite of what I thought here, but as more rubber gets laid down, it equals more rubber across the racetrack to just create a better racing surface almost. It's Colin Fern's on track now. Good looking number 96 car. Big Eagles fan. Go Birds. E-A-G-L-E-S. He's a big Eagles fan. He makes sure everyone knows about it on social media as he's completing, I believe this is his first lap, as he'll clock in at P8 at a 14.865. Got a little loosey-goosey off of their turn 2. It's a different kind of bird. See how that affects the lap, but I think he kept his foot in it. So his second lap, he actually improves. He's going to move up P6 with a 14.841.
So better lap there for the FRS Racing Philadelphia Eagles Chevrolet Silverado, and the 96 of Colin Fern certainly knows what it's like to win in a NASCAR truck. He got a W at Iowa very long time ago, a couple of seasons back, to put him inside the championship for that year. And now next up is the Cambridge City, Indiana native, Scott, of Presley Sora. We've seen a lot of him over the season. He currently sits 13 points back of the points leader, James Bickford. Sora has been one of those to watch and one of the favorites so far in season 7.
Absolutely. He's been hanging right there. He hasn't been making any big statements, but he is right there. And I think people are going to be underestimating Presley Sora, but I think he's going to be right there for when someone messes up. Presley Sora will be right there, and he is going to put in a 14.7, breaking into the top 3.
Into the podium goes the Season 5 champ, which the vehicle that he won the championship in was this same 98 Ford F-150. So we'll see if he can try to charm some of that good luck, and the 98 will park it on the apron. He puts in that 14.719. Here is Nick Olson out of the Grit Esports camp, currently 6th in point standings right now. One top 5 and one top 10 to his name so far. The driver out of Waxhaw, North Carolina, going to put in a lap here in a 3 and 4, and again Dylan running the high line. So as we've seen this track change over qualifying, and as we've had the rubber be put in lap after lap after lap, it appears more drivers are looking up to the higher part of the banking for qualifying.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that one top 5 and that one top 10 he has. That was also a top 1. He won our season opening race of the year. That was really good performance by him. He kind of just sat back in the weeds, but he puts it P4 right now in this qualifying session with a 14.734. Expect a lot of good things tonight out of Nick Olson.
And that's a great lap there for Olson in the number 24. As here is Michael Fisher, driver of the number 32, one of the other Speed Factor Fords in tonight's field. And we've gotten used to seeing these Speed Factor colors, the same paint schemes, different colors run from all of the teammates in Monday Night Racing in the series this year. And for Fisher, he'll run the high side here up to 3 and 4. He'll come out of the final corner, cross the start-finish line. First lap clocks in, 15 flat, slowest out of the drivers we've seen so far. Total of 17 we've seen put in qualifying times. And for Fisher, he'll try to redeem himself on this second lap, hugging the very bottom. This time by, almost inching towards the outside wall, but is that faster? It appears it is not. 15.017, 1/1000th of a second slower, Scott. So Fisher will stay where he's at in 17th place. Here's Brandon Brown.
You know, I'm not too worried about Michael Fisher there. He is a fast driver. He's going to have to come through the field, but, you know, I'm not too worried about that for him. We see Brandon Brown coming in on the top. He's going to run that high line, Kenneth, as we love.
And of course, always love to see the Sim Seats colors on Brown's machine. Got his camera there on the bottom right. He blinks in and out just a bit, but that Toyota Tundra TRD Pro looking good under the lights, although it's a really simple paint scheme. 14.915 for the driver of the 12. He puts himself in 13th. We'll look for a better lap this time by, and just about a lane or so off of that initial very bottom, and you'll get a little bit loose out of turn 4. That's an improvement, though. Does beat Will Rogers. That'll be a 14.881 to put him 12th.
Yeah, that was a good-looking lap by Brandon Brown there. I mean, it looked like it was going to be good, and then I think he had a little mess-up off turn 4. But, you know, every 10th of a second, yeah, it's big here. I mean, you saw Colin Fern had a pretty good lap going. He got loose middle of 3 and 4, and it cost him about a 10th of a second. But you might not think, oh, it's only a 10th of a second. 10th of a second is the difference between starting 6th or starting 20th at the rate this qualifying session's going.
And track position is going to matter over the course of this race, Scott, because again, the turbulent air, the way these trucks handle, and at a specific short track, although you've got 250 laps, they click down rather quickly as we watch Gary Sexton put in his first time a 14.760. We'll watch for the second one as he comes right out of turn 4, and that will appear to not be an improvement. 14.76 remains his time, but track position is going to be key, probably why you're seeing a lot of the drivers try a little harder here in qualifying.
Absolutely. The most position moving on track might be surviving those wrecks that we are probably going to end up seeing, as we're going to have the 2 of Robbie Lyons going here, running the middle off the corner, starting his first lap. We're going to see how it goes for him.
Seminole, Florida native, season 3 champion of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series, comes through turns 1 and 2, and this line all the way up on the high side. Not afraid to get a little close to that safer barrier, but look at that diamond action out of turn 4. He'll cross the line for his first lap. Good enough for P15, 14.914 for Robbie Lyons as he comes through, one of the Grit Esports teammates of Nick Olson. And so wraps the bottom here in turns 3 and 4. Different lines we're seeing out of the first and second lap still, and it's rather interesting to see the contrast and whether that does improve or negate their laps entirely. In the case of Robbie Lyons, no improvement. 14.9 is where he'll stand.
You know, it's starting to show to me that really running either the top or the bottom is going to be about the same qualifying-wise, because the bottom, you're taking obviously the shortest route around the racetrack. But if you're up against the wall, you're able to carry more momentum, and you're allowed to go faster. So I think, I really don't think it somewhat makes a difference. Now, this middle line is probably the line I would take if I were qualifying, just because it's kind of the best of both worlds. You're able to carry more momentum, but it's also a shorter path around the racetrack. But I think that, you know, the old saying, there's different ways to skin a cat. I mean, I think this is what they're seeing here.
I don't know if I've ever heard that saying, though.
It's a Southern saying.
Cat. Okay,
Yeah, no,
well,
me either.
Well, I'm probably in the southernmost tip of the United States in Miami. I've never heard that before. Joey Padgett, his lap 14.821. He brings it to the apron. His truck slows down, and Padgett still eyeing in on his first career Monday Night Racing Pro Series victory. Now, here is the man that we've all been watching over the course of the season, Scott. Adam Cabot in the 17 trails James Bickford by just 2 points. He's been holding on to the points lead for a little while now, and I'm sure that the Glen Gardner, New Jersey native would like it back kindly as he comes out of turn 2 for his first lap.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see what Adam can do here today. He hasn't, I wouldn't say he's had bad races, but he's kind of just been there in our past few. But here today, am here to see him. He wants to take that back from James Bickford, and I believe he is the man that can do it.
Fourth place finish last week at Charlotte. His first lap now, 14.762. His second comes in just a tad slower. So for Cabot, he will not improve. That one was a 14.857. So Cabot will not be able to elevate. He will stay in the top 6. And great lap so far by guys like Nick Olsen, Gary Sexton, even guys like Joshua Slate still maintaining top 10 efforts right now. Here's the second Grit Esports truck in the field other than Nick Olsen and of course Robbie Lyons. This is the number 9 of Brandon Houff, who Dylan was a couple of thousandths of a second short of his first career win at Indianapolis to kick off the season. Houff, though, has been a little back and forth through the season, but looking for a good effort tonight with a beautiful Chevrolet Silverado.
Yeah, he had his heart ripped out by his teammate Nick Olsen there at Indianapolis, if I remember correctly. I mean, he did a good job all race. The big thing was stay out of trouble, and he was there at the end, and just if the start-finish line was at the start of pit road, he'd have won by about half a second, but that was not the case. Brandon Houff here in qualify puts P7, 14.778. Good lap by Brandon there, as we have 5 drivers left, and I believe it's Reed Wilson on track now.
Nice effort there for Houff. Makes that 2 Grit Esports trucks inside the top 10 for qualifying. And here's a beautiful number 66 Reed Wilson machine. Now, our social media manager, Cameron Auburnon, mentioned this just before we went live on the show and said the I Set My Friends on Fire reference here. Didn't exactly know what she was talking about at first, but now definitely do, as Reed Wilson does come out of turn 4 here. First lap, rather quick, Scott, 14.725.
I was thinking the same thing. I wasn't sure what Cameron was talking about. I'm still not sure now, but little to say. It is a beautiful paint scheme, to say the least, as we're going to see. He's going to put a 14.63 down. He's going to go for the provisional pole right now. Wow, what a lap by Reed Wilson.
That's an absolute heater out of the Team Joyride Toyota Tundra. So Reed Wilson out of his bag of 14.673 to the top of the board and the fastest we've seen so far. We'll see who the next driver is. It's the 04 of Corey Deucer, who's been maintaining solid positioning throughout his first Monday Night Racing Pro Series season. Currently camps just outside of the top 16 in points by 4. Below Ford Martin, and looking for a solid effort at Bristol here on his first lap. This one, 14.766.
Yeah, that's a good first lap there. I'll put him solidly in the top 10 with just about 3 cars left, or 2 cars left. Oh, 3 cars left. I can't count right now. As he'll come across the line, does he have any improvement? He does. He'll move into the top 6, just behind Nick Olsen, but ahead of Gary Sexton. Corey Deucer will be P6 right now, provisionally.
So he comes in, and here's the next driver on board, which is Ryan Vargas, a driver who knows a thing or two about racing in the NASCAR Truck Series. Did race multiple events in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series this year, and of course bearing the critical path security scheme that he's run multiple times over the year. Nice to see Ryan Vargas back in his natural habitat, but I mean, over the season, Scott, he's definitely proven a lot of people wrong, and it showed just how fast he is. And even last week with Gen 4's finished inside the top 5, and even though he said he stunk at the Gen 4 cars, I didn't believe him for a second. He proved how fast he was over that race. 14.750, his first lap. That's good enough for 7th out of turn 4. A little bit loose out of the last corner, but not sure if that will be an improvement here for the La Mirada, California native. 14.75 is where it will be on his fastest time. And a great effort here, Scott, by Vargas. As here's our points leader, James Bickford, on the track.
Let's go. I expect him to be high. Let's see how it goes.
Well, James is on 2 race winning streak, so we'll see how he does.
Yeah. And he was the first driver since Shane Van Gisbergen to get 2 wins in a row in this series, which seemed a little poetic when I talked to him last week on Podium Esports, where, he got his first career MNRW by beating Shane Van Gisbergen to the line. Bickford's first time, 14.742, runs the middle there, a little loose out of turn 2, but he'll be able to gather it up in the Toyota Tundra, sponsored by the very colors of Charlotte Phoenix. Brings it out of 4, almost taps the outside wall, but a 14.742 will keep him inside the top 6. And I think, Dylan, we're seeing drivers just extend their hand a little more each and every time on that second lap.
Yeah, you're going to see him let it all hang out as our final qualifier, Mario Miranda, is on track. Devin Henry joined late. He'll be a DNQ, so he's going to start shotgun on the field, by the way. But Mario Miranda, he's been up front a lot. He's still searching for that first win here in Monday Night Racing. He got a win in the Summer Series. But other than that, he's been a real force to be reckoned with here in Monday Night Racing. He's been consistently inside the top 5. Now, there's been times where, he might get involved in a little incident and it hampers his position, but he's been a really good driver this year so far, solidly in the playoff picture so far. As first lap is P11. We'll see how he does off of turn number 4. And he will put it P4 on the outside of row number 2. Mario Miranda, good lap by him, but it will be Reed Wilson that leads us to the green flag here shortly.
So the student out of the University of Oklahoma puts his number 99 Toyota inside the top 4. That'll bring us to the end of the qualifying session. The 4 drivers that were not able to put in times, of course, include Devin Henry, like you alluded to, Dylan, Raja Caruth in the 13, the 71 of Blake McCandless, and Ford Martin, who we saw hit the outside wall on his qualifying time, elected to go just from the back of the field, decided he wanted to do a little challenge for himself tonight from the last great Coliseum. More on the other side. We'll get prepped for the green flag of tonight's Highland Homes Roofing 250. You won't miss a thing.
Mach10. Let's give Mach10.
You're cleared for takeoff.
Just a handful of minutes away from the green flag of tonight's Highland Homes Roofing 250 here from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. Welcome back to our coverage on Podium Esports. Kenneth Bueno, Dylan Connolly, and Scott Shive here with you in the booth. Ryan Bauer, our producer, using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Well, Dylan, we mentioned the point standings near the top of the show, how close they are at the very top, how close they are in the top 16 and below. Are there any drivers you're looking at in particular, below the cut line or not, that need a monumental race tonight at Bristol to set the momentum back in their direction?
You know, obviously the big glaring one is Chase Cabry. I mean, he's a guy that he could go off and rattle off 4 straight wins everywhere that we go. But that's the one that really just sticks out to me. But that's, you know, Joshua Slade, Alex Monteferrante. I mean, they're ones that have been stacking up pretty decent runs. But Chase Cabry's the one I'm looking for. Like, man, he could blow up here and then just shoot up the ladder.
And there's a look at the Season 7 standings after the first 5 or so races coming into event number 6 of the 2023-2024 calendar. And that's where you see the 2 points of difference between James Bickford, the winner last week, and Adam Cabot, who got his points lead swapped away from him last week in North Carolina. Presley Sora and Mario Miranda are a little closer in point standings, but Bailey Turner's right on the heels of Miranda in the 99. So is Nick Olsen at 141. Then you've got a tie for 7th between Michael Fisher and Monin Rahman. And this will matter for our bracket-style points format when we get to playoff time, because the driver first in standings will have to encounter the 16th place driver, and then so on, 2nd and 15th, then 3rd and 14th, all the way until about, I'd say, 8 to 9. That's where you'll have those matchups get all the way together to the top 16. Ford Martin would have to face James Bickford if the playoffs were to start tonight. However, we still have a lot yet to be decided. 3 or so points deciding those drivers 14th through 16th. And of course, 4 points only. Corey Deucer is away from entering the playoff conversation. Chase Cabry, like I said, Dylan, 5 points out. It's marginally close. Monteferrante and Joshua Slate aren't that far behind either. So still a toss up there for those last couple of spots in the top 16. Bristol surely will make it a little more interesting as we wave the green flag. Let's get you to tonight's starting grid for tonight's Highland Homes Roofing 250, and it is Team Joyride's Reed Wilson in the number 66 on pole with a 14.673. He'll be tagged alongside by Chase Cabry in the 39. They'll bring us to the green on row number 1. Cole Cabry starts inside the top 3. Mario Miranda, the Oklahoma native, will be on his outside in position number 4. Presley Sora, Season 5 champ, will be inside the top 5. Nick Olsen, for Great Esports, solid qualifying effort. He rolls off from position number 6. Points leader going into tonight, James Bickford will look for 3 wins in a row. Corey Deucer on his outside for speed factor. He'll be an 8th. Ryan Vargas, the La Mirada, California driver, will be from 9th. And Gary Sexton, Dylan, rounds out tonight's top 10.
For some reason, Nick Olsen isn't moving. We'll see if anything's wrong there. P11, Adam Cabot. P12, Brandon Howell. Almost got the first win of the season. The first race of the year, Joshua Slate, P13, P14, Joey Paget. We go back to row number 8, Matt Stallneck, Monin Rahman are 15th and 16th. Back at row number 9, Colin Fern. Got to keep an eye on Colin Fern tonight. DJ Cummings in P18. And then we go back to P19 and P20, Alex Monteferrante and Bailey Turner. And Scotty's going to set us through the rest of the field.
We'll have in 21st position, we'll have Brandon Brown, and in 22nd, we'll have Will Rogers. Then in 23rd and 24th, Robbie Lyons and Christopher Tate. Bringing us back to position 25, we'll have Brett Baldick, and then in 26th, Stephen Ellis. Then with 27th, Jordan Buster, and 28th, Michael Fisher. Then in 29th, we'll have Blake Candelas, who almost got the win last week but had connection issues. Then that's all we're going to have.
So it's a 31 truck field, and for Nick Olsen, finally got his truck settled. He's back with the rest of the starting grid. Pace truck is down. Reed Wilson and Chase Cabry will bring us to the green flag for the Highland Homes Roofing 250, and a bit of a sluggish start for the top 2 on row number 1. They'll be side by side, entering 3 and 4 to complete lap 1.
Pretty even keel all throughout the field as we're going to get 1 lap completed here. You know, I could see this race either going 1 of 2 ways, either just a big wreck fest or it could be pretty clean like this, and it's not looking too bad so far.
So The field stacking up quite a bit, entering 3 and 4. Chase Cabry maintaining the middle, trying to get a decent run out of 4 on your race leader, and he's got it. Battle for the lead. Entering turns 1 and 2 once more. Chase Cabry on the outside. He'll be able to push forward, and Scott, a big momentous run there for Cabry. Puts him into the race lead. Reed Wilson will have to settle back in second. Just tells you what that outside line can do, even on the short term.
Absolutely, and we're looking at Cole Cabry here. He's just looking to get there. Reed Wilson, he's looking to get the lead back from Chase Cabry, and we're going to see what he can do when we have Cole Cabry coming on the outside of Reed Wilson here.
The Cabrys are spoiling the party early on Reed Wilson's pole position start. 66 trying to fend for himself on the inside. Bit of a loose moment there coming out of turn 2. He'll file back in single file. The 24 Olsen now maintaining an attack, but he'll maintain position. Everybody single file until you get beneath the top 10 and the 15th position. Josh Slate, Bailey Turner, Matt Stonick on those going side by side. Ryan Vargas looking on the inside of Moden Ramana, goes right into the outside wall and had to keep it away from other harm. But here comes Joey Padgett, and here comes Joshua Slate, the driver you're riding on board with right now.
Yeah, Slate not looking too bad right now as we're coming to 8 laps complete here in this 250 lap event. You know, these get kind of single file here. I want you to kind of ride the bottom, and we got a little contact to start finish line, but they got it sorted out. But it's been about what I kind of thought it would be. Real single file. I think everyone's kind of realizing we really don't want to try to hit the time limit in this. Let's, you know, just kind of hang around and just ride. And it's we got trouble front straightaway.
Out of turn 4, Josh Slate sent around. Caution is out for the first time tonight. And I saw the stack up happen from about a mile away as he got hit by Robbie Lyons en route to a spin, and the 0-1 of Slate, despite the solid qualifying start, he gets put to the back of the field track position-wise on our first yellow of the evening, Scott. And just typical Bristol stacking up there. It looks like a big run for Robbie Lyons out of the corner. Slate tried to shut the door, but was not clear. Sends him sideways, and it brings us to the caution.
That's exactly right. He was trying to get into 3 there, was trying to block, got sent in, and then he was trying to recover it, and it was just done from there. Got into the back from Robbie Lyons, and around he went, Joshua Slate.
Slate finished 19th at Charlotte last week, and certainly this wreck here at lap number 10 early will not set him off in the right way. Here's a look from the Seminole, Florida native of Lyons. And Dylan, it looks like just that minimal contact is enough to unsettle the 0-1, then another hit, then a third hit, then a fourth hit, then a 5th one as he goes into the wall, and around he went.
Well, if you want my opinion, I think Robbie was a little fed up with that first hit, and then he's fed up with the second hit, and then I think he just kept adding on there. It's just kind of what I saw. I mean, he might have been fed up, and he was just tired of him, and that's, I think, why we're under the yellow flag.
Well, what we noticed, though, Scott, in the first 10 or so laps, I know that was our first caution rather early in tonight's race from Bristol, but a lot of the front runners going single file at the bottom. You didn't see a lot of fighting until you found your way through the skirmishes of the mid-pack, top 10, top 15, usually where you see that hornet's nest build up. Was that sort of a general mindset from the guys at the front saying, we really don't want to stack him up this early, let's log in some laps? Is that the mindset of a driver at this stage of the race?
Absolutely. We've got 250 laps to go. It's only lap 12. These guys in the top 10, top of the field, they know that we're just gonna have to run this out. They're just trying to stay close to the guy in front of them, guys in front of them bumper, and they're just gonna keep trying to keep it clean. You know, we saw Reed Wilson fall from P1 to P4 as Chase Cabry, Cole Cabry, and Nick Olsen all went around him on the outside. So you're gonna be looking at these guys trying to learn from the guys around them. What can I do better? How can my truck get better? Am I too loose? Am I too tight? Is it gonna build tighter in the run? So these guys are just trying to learn as they go to get down to when we get to the near end of the laps, that when they're really gonna pick up the pace, as we'll say.
There was, by the way, there was our driver wall right there. It looked like the worst episode of Hollywood Squares ever.
We saw a lot of different postures there too. I was about to point that out. You have Devin Henry with his sim racing stance rather close to the wheel. Got guys like Ford Martin who are a little bit relaxed in his stance. You've got guys like Brandon Brown. There's a look at Devin Henry, very own. Definitely love Devin as much as possible with all the work he's done at Podium Esports. He was in the booth last week, but he's racing tonight here at Bristol Motor Speedway. And here come the 2 Ford F-150s, the 2 Cabrys, bringing us back to green from Bristol. Solid jump by the Cabry brothers. Olsen in a fight with Wilson here.
Oh, trouble, turn 3. multiple cars involved. Oh, we got some spinning. Track's clear. Well, they throw the yellow. There it is. So. Oh man, that was Michael Fisher in the wall.
Michael Fisher, the last of those to get some contact. I believe it started with the 41. Matt Stolnick here, Scott, who got a little unsettled, and it was initial contact with Steven Ellis. As there's a look at Fisher. Oh, nice shot keeping it out of the wall.
Multiple things going on there. I think someone was spinning in front of the 41 of Matt Stolnick, and that just got everybody all messed up, and then just got into the back of him, and around he went.
We'll see this again. And look for Matt Stolnick. He immediately gets unsettled loose, and it was from the 46. It was a run on the outside. So, Dylan, the same tale told as the incident between Robbie Lyons and Joshua Slate. A big run out of either corner, whether it be turns 2 or turn 4. And then it gets denied by the driver in front. They make the contact, and that's where everything begins.
It's a great looking shot right there, Bristol Motor Speedway. High atop Bristol Motor Speedway as we're under the caution again. But yeah, it's the old saying, cautions breed cautions here. It looked real smooth, real easy, just single file, and then all it takes is one guy getting fed up with another guy, and then a caution comes out, and then, you know, we start having caution after caution. Hopefully it's not that way, but we're having apparently some issue with the lineup. They had to wait on the pace truck, but I think we're all good here as the driver chat is lighting up. It's like, oh, we're fixing to have some problems. So.
Well, they were going insane as soon as that second yellow came out. I think everyone was expecting that first one to take us through, but really no one, Scott, thought that the second one would be coming right after. And I guess the radio, they were all sort of proving themselves right in that sense, all of them expecting some bit of chaos. And in some way, that's what makes this race rather important in this 4-race stretch moving into the playoffs, because we've had already 2 super speedway races in Indianapolis at Daytona, and then we had the road course race at Watkins Glen, and we had somewhat of a more normal race last week at Charlotte, but it gets wilder from here. Bristol, Long Beach, Wild West, and Atlanta close out the schedule. Tonight may be rather important just in case of survival, like you mentioned at the top of the show.
Absolutely. These drivers know that even though it's lap 718 now, they know that the finish will come, and where they finish matters in that point standings. And these guys, you know, 15th through 25th, they know they're going to need every point that they can get. You know, we see Michael Fisher in here. He's, I believe, top 10 in the points, but he's back in 18th, 17th, 19th in there. He wants to get up near the front, gain some points. So they're really battling back there, and that's where most of our cautions are probably going to come from. Those guys just fighting for every point they can get.
Great point that you made there with Ford Martin, Alex Monteferrante, those guys who are just on the outskirts of the top 16, or in the case of Martin, just right inside the top 16, but not by much. So all of them near the mid-pack. It's going to be about survival for them for sure. We'll get the lights off on the iRacing official pace truck. That is Josh Slate trying to get rid of being a lap down here from the pace truck, so he'll get out in time in 30th, our only truck a lap down or more. Christopher Tate, 7 laps down in the 30. He is parked on pit road. So the 2 Cabries will bring us to the green flag again. Reed Wilson, Nick Olson, those drivers 3rd and 4th. Mario Miranda bringing up the top 5. Then Presley Sora, Gary Sexton, Corey Deucer, Brandon Half, and Adam Cabot to reveal the rest of the top 10. So far, the Cabri brothers have been dominating ever since the drop of the green at lap number 1. We'll see what they can do this time by. Chase Cabri will be the directionary car on the green flag restart. There they go back into turns 1 and 2. And once again, Dylan, single file train through the top 3 on the inside.
Yeah, I think they start to figure it out. They're going to be real calm and tame up here, but there's going to be a lot of people trying to jockey for position here in the mid-pack. I think there were 3 wide back there around Presley Sora, as they have it sorted out now. But that's the beauty of this racetrack. There's really 3 viable lanes that you could race on. And so far, all these drivers aren't afraid to use all 3 lanes.
And Scott, you talked about this at the very beginning of the show, the dynamicness of this Bristol Motor Speedway, and we're seeing this directly in the battle for position number 6. Presley Sora in that dead heat fight with Gary Sexton, now making Corey Deucer the tertiary truck in all of this. How important is it to weave around these lines, search for clean air, and of course get the runs on drivers like you saw Corey Deucer do there?
It's extremely important. You know, these guys, they're running A, what line is comfortable for them, but also B, what's comfortable for their truck. You know, they've got these setups and they got what they like to run, but they're going to try to find the line that's absolutely best for them. But, you know, sometimes you're going to have that line where, you know, you're just going to have to, somebody's going slow on the bottom, you're just going to have to run the top, try to get around them. I didn't think they'd be running both lanes so quickly, but, you know, you can always be wrong. They're going for it. They need every point they can get.
There are multiple drivers running that outside lane. Few and far in between in the top 5. You'll see them a lot more in the top 10 and the top 20. One of those repping the top right now, Reed Wilson. We saw Presley Sora in there. And here's a look at Bailey Turner in the 5, further back through the field as he tries to make this pass complete on Brandon Houff. That is for 13th on the racetrack as it stands. And Bailey Turner with that 20th place qualifying effort after being the very first truck, Dylan, to put in a time. It looks like Turner already making work early here as he gets into the top 15.
Yeah, he's moving through the field pretty well, I would say. He started almost close to P last right now, but he's certainly making the moves to get up there. And this is a track you can make a lot of moves pretty easy. I mean, it feels like it takes a long time, but laps click off pretty quick here, and you can make up spots pretty fast at that rate.
And look at the cluster developing around 26th position. Devin Henry, Alex Monteferrante. You've got Michael Fisher, who we were riding on board with just a couple of moments ago. Josh Slate in all of this, even after the spin that brought out the first caution of the night. And look at the Sports 360 Arizona sponsored Chevrolet Silverado there for Henry as he tries to battle with these guys around him. Ford Martin's in this group as well. He'll get passed by Robbie Lyons. And a great look off of Devin Henry's number 77. Always a great paint scheme, Scott, whenever he reps on the Monday Night Racing track, but currently in a really big fight and just trying to work the outside. As we'll look at James Bickford here, further up in 10th.
Absolutely, we'll see what James Bickford's got going on. He's running the bottom right now. He's just running laps. He's just putting in laps, you know. He knows that this is a race of survival, like Presley Sora told us last week. So James Bickford, he's just running his own line, staying out of trouble, just trying to get to the end as he runs the bottom here.
And here's Bickford right behind Adam Cabot, of course, the points leader. Going into tonight's race, took it over from Adam. And Dylan, when we talked to him after winning last week's race at Charlotte, obviously elated after the victory, but wasn't necessarily concerned about the bigger picture. He just wanted to take it race by race and certainly enjoyed the time that he was having racing in Monday Night Racing. And he'll look to become the first driver to go three-peating here in wins in a season, at least for the first time in a long time or ever, in terms of the years that we've been running this series. So Bickford has been putting up a solid effort tonight, but currently stuck in that single file train on the bottom.
Well, how many times have we seen this from James Bickford, where he won't have just the greatest qualifying effort of all time, but then just suddenly with about a quarter of the race left, he just appears inside the top 3. So, I mean, he's running 10th right now. He's kind of just treading water, just hanging out around Adam Cabot, Joey Padgett, these guys. But, I mean, I fully expect, provided nothing bad happens to him.
Nick Olson, sideways.
Nick Olson about spun out back there, but, I fully expect James Bickford to be up front at the end of the race.
Saw a big moment there from Nick Olson in the 24 as he was trying to play defense on the 99 of Mario Morenda to move the Oklahoma driver into the top 3. As here's Reed Wilson trying to hold up the top, give some of that dirty air. Is sort of the game you play with these Truck Series machines. Presley Sora and Ryan Vargas right behind. Look at the focus there from Wilson. That driver that leans into the corner, even though it's an in-sim race, still making that feeling like it's a real-life truck that he's driving into the banking as Sora makes a big move on the top, and there he goes for 5th.
I don't think Wilson is liking his truck right now. He must be loose because he is falling through the field, but to his degree, Presley Sora has a fast truck right now. So does Ryan Vargas, but Reed Wilson's going to hope that that truck will start coming to him soon as he can battle back and get those positions back that he's lost.
So Wilson is playing a rather patient game right now, but for the moment it doesn't seem to be working all too well as he almost got split 3 wide off the momentum exiting turn 2. As you watch on board from James Bickford, that white truck up in the distance, that is Wilson, then Cabot and Corey Deucer going at it for the spot. You got to be really careful, Dylan. You're sort of walking on thin ice here when you pile these trucks up in a track this short and a track that relies so heavily on the momentum. Contact to Cabot.
Yeah, it's almost like I'm trying to figure out what it's comparable to, where it's like a big accordion. If something happens up front, well, as close quarters as they're in all the way around the racetrack, and say 2 guys hit each other, they want to check up, and the guy behind them has to check up. Well, suddenly the guy in 25th is going to feel that at about half lap or so, just based on how close everyone is. I mean, I think as we have a car spinning on the front straightaway, he's spinning toward the inside. He's over to the wall, and I think I can tell who that is. I think it's Devin Henry. Oh man, poor Devin.
Got hit by Josh Slade. Around he went at the exit of turn 4. Brings us our 3rd caution of the night from the last great Coliseum. Rather harmless spin there for the 77. Got a bit of damage on the front end of his Chevrolet, but we'll take a look and see exactly what happened. And again, Scott, I believe it's once more momentum on the top seems to kill the driver in front inadvertently.
Right, they just got stacked up right there, and there was nothing really that Devin could have done. He just got stacked up on the bottom, just kind of stuck there.
So here's a look from the number 77. There goes Slate. Just slight contact there as Slate makes the move there on Devin Henry and unfortunately sends him around. So that will slow the field down here at lap 45, our longest green flag run of the evening here from Bristol, Tennessee. A look on board with Alex Monteferrante, and what a save, trying to slow it down. That truck unsettled, but he got it righted quickly.
And he had a handful right there. Holy cow, yeah, he did a good job saving that truck. That could have been a whole lot worse than what it was, but thankfully it was only a 1-car incident. I think Devin might have just kissed the wall, but I think we're all good here. We'll go back racing here pretty quick.
So while the field will tally behind the iRacing official pace truck, we do have takers on pit road, but very low numbers. The 24 of Nick Olson, who was running inside the top 5, he's in. Reed Wilson in the 66 is in. It also appears that Joey Padgett, the Joyride teammate of Wilson, also comes in for service. Matt Stolnick, the 3 of Gary Sexton. So multiple drivers, even in small numbers, Scott, are looking for pit road at this stage of the race. Is that just a moment to alternatively get pit strategy rolling right now, or is this just splash and go or get some damage repair?
He gets some strategy. You know, we saw Gary Sexton. I looked at him on his car. He had some right rear damage to his fender. But, you know, some other guys, I'm not surprised to see Reed Wilson in there. You know, obviously we saw him falling through the field. So obviously he was not loving something on his truck. So he probably came in for an adjustment. But some of these guys definitely, absolutely, probably playing pit strategy for sure.
So a couple takers early here from Bristol Motor Speedway. We'll have the Cabreys continue to lead the charge here up front on our 3rd caution of the night. Just a reminder that coverage of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series is brought to you by Highland Homes Roofing. Since 1986, Highland Homes Roofing has been the #1 company you can trust for all of your roofing needs. Locally owned and operated in Sebastian, Florida. They don't use subcontractors, guaranteeing the quality and craftsmanship their clients have come to expect. Highland Homes Roofing is deeply involved in the community and have brought together the best local talent to create their roofing dream team. They take pride in all aspects of roofing and look forward to serving their area's roofing needs for many years to come. Financing is available, and for more information on how to get a free quote, you can visit their website, www.highlandhomesroofing.com, or find them on Facebook. Highland Homes Roofing, trust them with all your roofing needs. We'll double them up here for the restart. Lap number 49 of 250 here from Bristol. Still a really long way to go. But of course, Fern will have more grip here. 12-lap fresher tires. He'll go right to the inside. And it's all about how the 39 of Cabrey will play defense here. Slides up right in front of the 96. Fern aims for a crossover. No luck there. And while we approach a first battle officially for the lead, behind them, there are more drivers shuffling through. Brandon Brown pitted around 25.
Trouble in the back.
Laps go, and caution is out. Blake McCandless is in it. And so is Brett Baldeck.
I believe Cabrey still had the lead when the caution came out. As we'll see what happened here in cause of our caution. Oh, 3 wide. That never works out well at all.
There's Bailey Turner barely getting through that.
Oh.
Brett Baldeck coming slamming.
Wow.
To the 71 as the Underdog Fantasy Chevrolet picks up his first bit of damage tonight. There's a look at the 71 set up into the quarter underneath Reed Wilson. And Dylan, just talk us through that. How did the space run out there?
Yeah, it just ran out of room. It was 2 cars trying to fit into a 3-car hole as Brett Baldeck. He just very unfortunate timing for him to lose it right there, and then just basically tank slam Blake McCandless there. I don't think he meant to do that, obviously, but Blake came out that not too bad, not too much damage, but Brett got the worst of that.
Now remember,
Luckily for-
McCandless started tonight in 29th. Go ahead, Scott.
Luckily for Baldic, Arrow is not an issue for him, as we see his front bumper flying away.
So the 4 of Baldic, I believe, picks up the most severe damage we've seen tonight. A lot of our hits and dents have come from just little contact here and there, but for the most part, we haven't seen any race-ending or bumpers being tearing off in terms of damage. But it appears that might be our first Baldic getting into McCandless. Our caution here at lap number 74. Now, we asked the question, Scott, whether the Cabries were going to come down pit road if they were thinking about it sooner than later. The answer has been a resounding yes. Both of them are in. They will forfeit the track position, but all for an attempt at fresh tires. And we saw just how much that worked in the last run or so with Colin Fern.
I was just going to say, Colin Fern was absolutely charging on the Cabri brothers, so it was only a matter of time. You know, we're 75 laps in, so, you know, these tires can make it pretty long. They can go for a good 100, 110 laps or so and still be pretty good, but when you've got a guy that's on 20-lap old tires compared to 75, well, he's going to be charging through the field. So the Cabri brothers are just trying to get the freshest of the sets.
So the Cabri brothers on their first trip officially here to pit road. Colin Fern will assume the race lead, but he might have to look in that rear view mirror sooner than he believes, because 30-lap old tires sit with Brandon Brown and Robbie Lyons behind, then 13-lap old tires for Ryan Vargas back in 4th. So differing strategies here, Dylan. At this point in the race, all of them just trying to pinpoint what strategy will work for them in this so far caution-filled afternoon. And while we talk about cautions, while we talk about crashing, we have to talk about the new penalty system that the admins of Monday Night Racing implemented for this week. What's that all about?
Yeah, so they're trying to cut down on just wrecks that just ruin the race. I say ruin the race, but it's a lot of kind of new stuff. So you're going to get an EOL if you cause a caution. We're going to use restarts based on what iRacing considers the restart. If you cause any sort of incident on the white flag lap, it will result in an EOL, and you'll be placed at the end of the field as the last car on the lead lap. Now, one thing that they also added is they're going to let you appeal any decision that race control makes. So if they say a wreck is your fault, you're able to immediately appeal that, keep your position, and then it'll be reviewed by a third party outside of Monday Night Racing. That if they deem you at fault, you'll be placed back at the rear. There's a few others that we'll go into later in the race as we're coming to the green.
So we'll get Colin Fern and Brandon Brown set up on row number 1. They'll bring us back to the restart at lap number 78. But really interesting, those penalties implemented for this week, specifically for a track that is known to have incidents all across the board. Green flag in the air once again for Bristol. Colin Fern with a nice jump into turns 1 and 2. Brandon Brown having to deal with a mirror full of Ryan Vargas and now Robbie Lyons, as here comes Vargas charging on the high side. He goes for the 3rd lane trying to get around the sim seats number 12. What a run by Brown. He looks for the race lead soon.
Yeah, he's on somewhat fresher tires along with Ryan Vargas, who's got the freshest tires of everyone up here. I think Varg Dog's going to be the one that's going to have the biggest advantage here as Fern shuts the door on the bottom there.
We don't see a lot of mirror driving normally, but that is exactly what Colin Fern is doing now as Ryan Vargas goes for the bottom under the lead, but the 12 of Brandon Brown gets a run. He is looking in the mirror right now, Colin Fern trying to keep this lead.
Hugging the bottom has not worked for Ryan Vargas, and a bit more contact there with Brandon Brown in the fight for second.
How is that going to work? This is a contrast of 3 different tire strategies here. Fern pitted on lap 11, Brandon Brown pitted on 44, and Vargas on
caution
61.
Flag. Michael Fisher in trouble.
Oh,
what a battle for the lead right there. You were right, Dylan. 3 different tire strategies was creating some interesting racing as we see the replay here.
And it's Michael Fisher that gets the bit of the contact here, sends him around. And we'll see exactly what happened, but for Fisher, this is the 2nd time he's been involved in an incident. He didn't pick up damage the first time, just went for a little spin. But this time, just gets loose out of the corner here, Dylan. It appears way out of shape. Right as he went to that exit, wiggled once, twice, and around he went, and then gets to hit by what appeared to be the 41 of Stallneck.
I think that was Matt Stallneck, but that's just a really interesting situation. I believe he was on newer tires, so that's just a combination of cold tires and trying to do a little too much. There was someone that got loose up into the wall ahead of them, so I don't know if that might have caused him to let off. And I think it was James Bickford that got out of shape up there.
Bickford, who's on 8-lap old tires, just recently came down pit road, gave up a lot of the track position. He sits 23rd. As here's another look at it. This is Ford Martin, the teammate of Matt Stolnick, right in front. And Scott, as this third truck in it, when you see this incident happen, you know, what are you thinking behind the wheel at that point?
I mean, I see someone around, I see someone not straight, I am on the brakes. I am immediately on the brakes, just try and make sure there's nobody behind me that's gonna shove me into them, spin me around. But, you know, again, I'm just trying to avoid that as a driver. You know, we talked about how earlier that Brett Baldeck, you know, he lost his bumper and aero doesn't matter much, you know, but right in front of that, behind that bumper is your radiator. And that is very important for your water temps, keeping your engine cool. So while aero doesn't matter and you can take those bumps and bangs, you don't want to lose an important part like your radiator. So you're watching out as a driver, just making sure that you try to stay out of it as best you can.
Fantastic point. And while you mentioned Brett Baldeck not having to worry about aero because his bumper came ripping off when he made that contact with McCandless, and while aero isn't a big deficiency if you don't necessarily have it as much here at Bristol because it's a short track, but the radiator, if you do get engine damage, that's where the big no-no sets in. You'll be running laps, that engine will start to overheat, and the sooner than you know it, your race is going to be over. And with no fast repairs here in this series for Season 7, you're going to have that problem arise where you get taken out of the race. There's nothing you could do but wait on pit road and hope that things are going to solve itself in a quick fashion. We'll have a restart in just a couple of moments. Ryan Vargas and Colin Fern at the very front. There's a look at our driver wall. And you'll see Presley Sora top left, James Bickford top middle, Brandon Brown with his arm back, I guess in a relaxed motion. Sort of reminds me of Przemysław Lemonek in the Turn Racing Grand Prix iRacing series just last week. Then there's Vargas in the darkness, Mario Miranda in the middle, the Tennessee Titans jersey for Ford Martin, then Reed Wilson, Matt Stolnick, and Devin Henry. Beautiful driver wall, don't we have, Dylan?
Yeah, again, it looks like the worst episode of Hollywood Squares ever, but it's good-looking dudes there. They're doing a good job tonight. They're all still fighting all over the race, all over the racetrack. So it's pretty good-looking situation right now.
Nice to get those different perspectives for sure, as they're all in different placements throughout the field, and we get to tap in with them every now and then. We'll have our restart here with Fern and Vargas at the front. Now, for history's sake, Ryan Vargas is the winningest active Monday Night Racing driver with the trucks. Now, it's only 2 wins for him, but everyone else has one. The only other driver with more, I believe, is Nick DeGroot, not an active driver in this series. And a bit of a sluggish start for the 26. He'll try and shut the door early on Brandon Brown for turns 1 and 2. Fern will hold on to the lead, but the question, Scott, is how long can he hold it?
Don't think very long. You know, those tires are almost 75 laps old, and Ryan Vargas's are only 20-something. So Ryan Vargas will probably assume the lead here. But like we said earlier, Fern is going to use that mirror as much as he can, and he's going to try his best as Vargas is right on his bumper, following him in to the turn.
Fern blocks the lane. He tries to give the dirty air to the 30, but Vargas aims up higher. He looks for a crossover at the exit of turn 2 to no avail. Remember the last time he was trying to make an inside move, it did not pan out the way he wanted it to. A bit of a brush with the outside wall, Dylan. And all of a sudden it appears the chance of the race lead is dwindling quite a bit. And here is Brandon Brown, not too far behind in third.
Brandon Brown's watching this like, hey, I'm waiting for these guys to take each other out. He's not just he's not trying to fight up there real quick with them, or hell, he might be. I don't know. He looks like Ryan Vargas is trying to figure out a way to get around this 96, but Colin Fern is defending for his life over there.
And just holding down the clamps, but now here comes Vargas. A dive on the inside, has to check up. Now here comes Brown. Charge in the middle, car around behind them. That is Bailey Turner, truck around. The Celsius Chevrolet into the wall, pancakes it, but gets it right back in the direction he wanted it to. Caution is out though quickly at lap 92.
Absolutely, we're going to see what happened here. Oh, and I believe he just got hit by, what was that, Adam Cabot? I'm not sure. I have to think Bailey Turner just got turned around off the corner.
And they were teammates, the 17 and the 5. Looks like they make that contact, but it looks like Turner here, Dylan, wanted to fill the space in between Brandon Half and Cabot, but did not do it in enough time. And it looks like the space just began to shut as soon as he occupied it.
How about to say, it just looked like he ran out of room there as you're on board looking backwards from the Mario Miranda machine. As he's going to come down he just looked like he just ran out of room. There was a space there that wasn't there. So that's We're under the caution here at lap number 94.
This is good news here, Scott, for Colin Fern on the 82-lap old tires. You reckon he'd come down pit road soon. Here's a look from Nick Olsen, who was on the outskirts of all that, luckily able to get away without any damage. But for Fern, I mean, he's faced a lot of pressure, no doubt, from Brown and Vargas. This has to be a sigh of relief knowing that the cautions are coming out at the best times as he comes over the radio.
Absolutely, and I think for Colin Fern, Ryan Vargas is charging on him, but Fern is doing some excellent defending. So even though he's on these tires that are 50 laps older than some of his competitors behind him, he's keeping them behind him. So I wouldn't be surprised, since he knows that there's probably going to be a caution every so often, that I wouldn't be surprised if he stays out here to keep the lead and get fresher tires later, because as we'll see, people pit in different cycles. So again, he'll probably stay out here and try to keep defending for that lead.
4 sets of tires on pit road, for this race. And we've seen the different strategies come into the fray in terms of who wants to waste those sets earlier than later. It appears for Fern, he wants to wait a little later than usual, although he's already pitted once in tonight's race over 95 laps. A bit of an update on the Cabry brothers, who spent a chunk of this race at the front. Their 20-lap old tires have helped them get to 14th and 15th. Behind them, points leader James Bigford in the 29. So Dylan, it has not been the easiest movement to the front, but patience seems to be the game to play. So we'll have more drivers on the lane. That's Joshua Slade, Michael Fisher.
Yeah, it's been a real interesting race. We have a lot of differing strategies. You had a lot of guys come down pit road just now. You have Colin Fern, who's on the oldest tires on the racetrack, and he's holding down the lead. Then you have guys that kind of pitted somewhere in the middle. So I mean, this is where the race will get interesting, because everybody's on different strategies, and I think it's going to stay that way. It's not like a mile and a half where tires get eaten at the same rate. I mean, here it's, how comfortable do you want the car to feel? Because there's been enough of a heat cycle, and there hasn't been just so long runs where, if you're not going through tires as much as you would think. But, Colin Fern, obviously, he's doing a pretty good job against guys that have 40, 50 lap old fresher tires that he does.
But he'll have to play defense again. Brandon Brown, who occupies second now, his best run of the season up until this point. He'll be on the outside of the first row to the green. Ryan Vargas in third. Robbie Lyons fourth. Reed Wilson for Team Joyride enters the top 5 after being somewhat scurried away from the group after starting on pole and sort of falling back through the field quite a bit. So nice to see him back in action as the pace truck will make its left to the entrance of pit road. We'll get to lap 98 and closing in on the halfway mark of tonight's Highland Homes Roofing 250. Pace truck is down. Fern with an early jump. No surprise there. Green flag back in the air for turn 1.
Absolutely. We see Colin Fern has gotten a good jump on these past 2 restarts, as we'll see Vargas under Brandon Brown trying to get second position, as we see him rotate in the corner and he'll get a run off. But Brandon Brown will charge back on the top as Robbie Lyons comes to try to take second away as well. Battling, they're side by side, Ryan Vargas and Brandon Brown, as they come up on Fern as well.
They'll try to catch up to the 96 and make him break. The 26 and the 12 remain side by side. Rather, the 30 and the 12 are going to remain side by side. And the 2 Toyota Tundras are trying to get right to the race leader. And now there are more drivers in it. Here's Joey Padgett stepping inside the top 5. Ryan cannot make the move on the bottom. Brandon Brown remains adamant at getting to the 96. But Fern Dillon is holding up that brick wall, and it is showing no signs of wear.
Colin Fern's making that truck about 3 lanes wide, but he's running the optimal lane that you need to run. So, I mean, he's doing a good job of shutting off the top, shutting off the bottom, making sure anyone's line is really affected if they try to go by him. They'll get next to him, but it's going to be really difficult to get by him with the way that they're going, as Brandon Brown, he just can't do it right there, because Colin Fern's going to have the big run off the corner there, and it's just, he's creating havoc with basically the racetrack.
We're starting to see some movers inside the top 10, most notably that orange and black Toyota Tundra you see in the distance off that onboard look. Mario Miranda has gotten back inside the top 6. Brown on the inside again at a challenge for the lead and cannot complete it on the 96. Now Vargas tries to make the space up top and almost a bit of contact.
He's going to get a run off the corner here, go for the bottom. No, he'll follow the 12 in. He'll get a little loose as we see, hopefully the 12 will get a big run here. Oh, we've got another caution.
Caution flag out again, and it's Ford Martin with a single truck spin.
Yeah,
Red lap 106.
This happened way back at the field, as that was Ford Martin, got clipped by Blake McCandless there at the end, but it just looked like it was a racing incident. As we're going to go on board with Ford here. As coming off the corner, yeah, it was just a little wheel spin and lost it there.
I think he actually got hit. They registered contact with Brett Baldeck, so the 07 gets a little bit of a hit check, goes sideways, and the 71, McCandless really know where he could go, gives that little tap to send the 07 fully around. So there's a bit of the contact made. The 07 gets that spin. There's the 71 going through. Ford Martin will drop to 28th on the racetrack, and this is again another sigh of relief for Colin Fern, who will hold off the rest of the field for now. But the driver right behind has been going insane. We'll bring in Brandon Brown, driver of the 12. Brandon, you're having the best run so far this season. It's been wonderful to watch you up front. You're trying to get around Colin, though. What's been the missing link to try to get to the race lead?
Oh, man, Colin's just good. He's really, really good. He's been running. He knows exactly where I want to go, where I want to get off the corner to try to get by him. I've got a little bit fresher tires than he has. I pitted with, like, at lap 40, and he saved a lot to start that run. So it's just a matter of he's just really good, and I'm trying not to get into him at all. Been a fun battle with him and Vargas up here, though.
And talk to us about tire strategy. You've got about 34 lap fresher tires than Colin Fern right now. And of course, we're seeing different tire strategies play out through the field. But how important are tire sets for you throughout this race as we approach halfway?
The sets aren't an issue. I've got 3 left in the bag. I don't plan on using maybe 2 more, just depending on how the race goes. Obviously, I stayed out here. I'm more worried about getting a really long run here and having to pit for fuel with, about 80 laps on a fuel run. Just trying to manage that and seeing, trying to think ahead to where I can come out with the best possible chance to win the race, because I'm not running in front a whole lot this year, out of practice and stuff. But this is an opportunity for me to have a really good run, and I want to capitalize on it.
And you've been certainly capitalizing for sure. You, Ryan, Vargas, Fern, putting over a whale of a battle right now. What's been the funnest part about that?
I know these guys. I know Colin. I know Ryan Vargas. We ran that truck night in America when I worked at Richmond. These are really good guys. They're going to race you clean and hard, and they're some of the best in the business when it comes to MNR. So it's just been fun up here running with them.
Hey, well, one thing I'll say to you, we love seeing you up front. We love watching you battle for the lead. It's been a lot of fun to watch. We wish you the best of luck, Brandon, and hopefully we'll get this restart ready in just a bit.
Yeah, thanks. Don't announce or jinx me.
I hope not. I hope not. That's Brandon Brown, driver of the 12, currently sitting second, and did put up a fight there to Colin Fern on the last run. Now he'll be on the outside of row 1, getting ready for the restart. Gotta love the personality there from Brandon Brown. A lot of the happiness there. And again, Scott, I mean, a driver that doesn't get a chance often to run up front, having his shot in the spotlight, he's not throwing it away. He's been certainly one of those drivers to make use of the opportunity given.
Absolutely. We know that Brandon Brown is a good driver with his experience, but you're right. We haven't seen him up here up front a lot, and he knows that. He's a great driver that knows that this is a big opportunity for him, and he's going to maximize that and what he's got for our point standings. We're going to see what he can do here on the restart, as we've seen Fern get great getaways here, as we see he does another, as Brandon Brown maybe spins the tires a little bit there. Reed Wilson going for him, but Colin Fern is going to hold it as Ryan Vargas gets around him.
Ryan Vargas pushes through to second. There's Blake McCandless falling a lap down from the leaders. He sits in 29th place. Now it's the 26th chance to get around the 96. Fern is holding on to the bottom. A very interesting line there for Fern, despite the fact that he's run the top almost all of the last run. Now Brandon Brown, Reed Wilson, Mario Miranda single file through the top 5.
Light, when you're driving any kind of car, no matter what, means stop. So they should have waited till the lights turned green. In hand, they were given an EOL penalty, which it just blew up the race chat. But at the end of the day, that is the correct call, because they did not wait to be released from pit road. And that's why those 3 were back there. And that's another big reason why Brandon Brown was wrecked in that race.
Just a sequence that can send you in trouble. here at a track like Bristol, so we'll be under caution again just past the halfway mark of tonight's Highland Homes Roofing 250. And we'll get this restart going with Nick Olson and Cole Cabry in row number 1. Scott, what a race it's been.
It's been nothing short of wild, which is exactly what we expected here as we're coming to the green soon in just a moment. Interesting to see, it stinks for Mario Miranda as he drops out there, but the drivers of Cole Cabry, Joey Padgett, Adam Cabot, Chase Craby there were very lucky as, with that confusion that happened with Miranda, Nick Olson was out to half a second lead within one corner. So it was honestly good for them to get a caution there as Nick Olson would have run away. But this is exactly the race we expected, and we're just under halfway. Here we go. Nick Olson out for the lead.
Has discretion on the restart, green flag in the air. Now here comes Cole with an immediate attack and a cleared away challenge for the lead. He almost had it in 1 and 2. The 24 fights back on the 26 to 30 degrees of progressive banking. The 24 stays up top. He remains in the race lead. Now Cabot to look inside for position number 2. And caution out again. Brett Baldock in the 4. Oh, man.
Holy mackerel.
That truck has been through it tonight.
The Motorscape Toyota Tundra with a front bumper ripped off. It's just a cling to the apron and the left side tires grip up. Truck is sent around at the exit of turn 4 right into the wall. And it's a hard bit of contact. And Scott, you mentioned some of the radiator damage. Well, it looks like that might be radiator damage, if not already, for the driver of the 4, Baldock, not having the best of nights here from Bristol. Dylan, this is something that we sort of expected. We sort of thought that a lot of cautions would come out, but we're just past halfway. We are still on the single file train behind the iRacing official pace cars. Certainly hasn't been the easiest night for most of the field.
No, and you know what I would almost consider if I was Michael Holland, Race Control does a fabulous job, by the way. I would almost consider just going single file restarts here until about 20-25 to go, because there's a lot of issues that are being called because of things that people can avoid just by paying attention, and it's shuffled up the field, and there's just been a lot of stuff that's gone on that it could be prevented if people would just pay attention, basically. As we're having a discussion about penalties and all kinds of other stuff during the race right now, so.
Yeah, just trying to get things figured out as the 24 of Olsen stays up front. What a fight it was with Cole Cabry, although it was short-lived. But it's just proving that the outside, no matter how old of a tire you've got compared to everyone else, you can still position yourself in the right way, get a good run off the corner, and be able to hold on to your spot or gain 1 or 2, depending on the situation. We apologize for some of the technical difficulties you've encountered if you've been watching our Twitch stream on twitch.tv/Podium Esports. Our producer Ryan Bauer has been hard at work to get it back for you, so you really haven't missed as much. We've just seen a lot of pit stops and some cautions, but some great racing in the meantime, and we're glad to have you back as we try to wrap up the rest of tonight's Highland Homes Roofing 250 from the last great Coliseum. Now, Scott, of course, this is our first short track race of the season. Probably no surprise that getting into that rhythm of short track race is going to be something it's going to take a bit of time for sure, after running 1.5 mile road courses, 2-mile D-shaped ovals, and then super speedways in some cases. But as we move forward, we will not see another short track until the late models at Richmond in the new year, January 8th. So is that somewhat of a relief there for the drivers that as soon as they get past Bristol, they do have chaotic races for sure ahead, but another short track won't be in sight for a little while?
Absolutely. As we've seen after these cautions after cautions, that it's just crazy how this happens with short track racing. So again, I'm going to go back to it. Presley Soar said it again last week. This race is about survival, and that's what these drivers are trying to do right now. So yeah, they'll definitely be happy when we can get out of here tonight, but they'll definitely be looking on their calendars at Richmond going, oh no, for sure.
Well, I know one driver that's looking forward to that combo. It is Chase Cabry, who at the moment sits position number 5 on the inside of row number 3. Him and his brother Cole have been able to work their way up slowly through the field, and on the fresher set of tires, they are now in position to take the race lead once again. But they do have to get around this silver and black number 24 of Nick Olsen, who will have control on the restart. Green flag and lap number 137. Swing up high by Olsen, blocking turns 1 and 2. Adam Cabot there to fill the space. He tries to challenge for the race lead, but Olsen holds on to it.
And Nick Olsen fighting up there pretty good. He's trying to hold off Cole Cabry and Adam Cabot. It's just a big hornet's nest behind him. But one thing I want to touch on is we've just passed a big mark in it. We have passed the 1 hour mark here. So remember, there is a 2-hour time limit on this race. So there's about 59 minutes to go. So they either have to get through 112 laps plus whatever might be at the end, or 59 minutes. Whatever happens first is going to end the race.
We have not encountered that so far this season, so if we do somewhat breach that 2-hour time limit, that is going to be a big factor in this race. Of course, the driver that stays up front is going to be the winner when time expires, and they are dueling for second place. Cole Cabry and Adam Cabot. Chase Cabry not too far behind either, and Scott, neither of these drivers, fresher tires or not, are certainly not able to hold on to the bottom. They have not been able to get the run they desire off the corner. It's allowed Nick Olsen to hold the fort down, keep the defense intact, and sort of an inspiration to Colin Fern earlier in the race.
Absolutely, as we see Cole Cabry now going for that bottom as he holds it really well there. I think he was just holding out on us, trying to follow in that top line. He's just searching right now, Cole, to figure out what's best for his car, as Nick Olsen is just trying to defend. As we see, we also saw Adam Cabot just a moment ago fighting for that bottom, holding along it. Cole Cabry's just he's gonna try to find what's best for his car and go for the lead on Nick Olsen as Olsen follows the mirror.
And look behind these drivers. In 5th place, Joey Padgett, who started this race in 14th, and then Presley Sora, who started 5th, and now he's working his way back to the position he started. And in this top 5, Dylan, I've noticed it seems to be a battle not only for track position, but for Florida representation. 3 drivers in the top 5 are Florida natives. Tampa for both Cole and Chase Cabry, Tallahassee for Joey Padgett.
Yeah, a lot of action going on in the state of Florida right now. Is there? They're really getting after it here, but I see a lot of guys that they've been really up front a lot of these races here so far this season of Monday Night Racing. You have Nick Olsen, of course, won the first race of the year. Both the Cabrys that always have something to say. Adam Cabot, who's had a really solid season so far, sitting second in points with 1 win. I mean, Presley Sora is up there also. I mean, he's third in points. So you're seeing the cream rise to the top. Oh, God!
Bickford. It's the points leader involved. And the 29 is parked at the top of the banking. In turns 1 and 2, Bickford involved in a huge accident with 103 laps to go.
I was watching just in front of that. Monteferrante was stacking up that line on the top lane. I think that's what caused this behind him.
Here's a look at the overhead shot. In a battle with Josh Slate, there are the 2 speed factor Ford F-150s that you were alluding to. Scott Monteferrante, the driver up front, Corey Deucer behind. It's this run by Slate that he does not ignore. He goes right to the back bumper of the Charlotte Phoenix Toyota. Similar tail, Dylan, to most of the other incidents tonight. 1 tap of the back bumper spells disaster.
Yeah, that's, of course, Joshua immediately took responsibility for that, but that's, yeah, 1 little tap just upset that 29. Actually, it was just like 1 long extended tap. He got him loose and they just kind of hung on him. But yeah, that's a real, yeah. I don't know how else to put that, but I think that's another one that could have been prevented. To drop board with Devin Henry, see what he has to see what he sees up here. And yeah, he had to do a lot of dodging there as he's letting up. He sees a shower of sparks and a lot of parts flying around, and he gets through that one pretty clean.
What a job by the 77. Great avoidance there. Robbie Lyons also gets sent sideways. The 41 of Matt Stallnick, we presume, has damage. Bickford has entered the pit lane. He's going to try and get his truck fixed, while we have Nick Olsen and company entering pit road. Corey Deucer is one of them. Adam Cabot, Brandon Houff, who picked up damage on that crash. Josh Slade in the 01, the 83 of Joey Padgett, Alex Monteferrante in the number 97. among those that are coming down. So Presley Sora will bring in the race lead on 75 lap old tires as we'll breach 100 laps to go here in Bristol, Tennessee. All right, well, Scott, before we get to, looks like we'll talk about the schedule in just a bit. I certainly do want to touch on that a little more, but first of all, let's talk with the Arizona native, Devin Henry. First of all, Devin, it's nice to talk to you again. I know we had you in the booth last week, and that was a lot of fun, but you're trading the headset for the steering wheel. Great opponents on the last wreck. What have you seen so far tonight?
Wrong button. This racing's been crazy here tonight, but I mean, my hands are tingling. I've had 2 or 3 really close avoidances, man. I'm having the time of my life. I don't know how many people actually are having the time of their life right now, but I'm having a ton of fun right now. Excited to be back behind the wheel. It's been a little bit too long. As nice as it was to be with you last night, Kenneth, or last week, Kenneth. But yeah, we're just having some fun right now, man. I'm kind of pumped right now. I didn't come in expecting to be here for a long time, but boy, I've had me a good time so far. Outside the top 20 most of this race, I think.
You certainly negated the entire Drake lyric where he says, "I'm here for a good time, not a long time, you know I." But nonetheless, Devin, I mean, what's been the rush like behind the wheel? I mean, you've been in a lot of battles tonight. Like you said, avoidance has been key, getting around some of the big crashes, but we've seen a lot of great stuff. Side-by-side action, 3 wide here and there. What's that rush been like to race these trucks at Bristol with the competition?
It's been stressful, man. I already asked twice, like, hey, can you turn the fan up, man? Because I'm getting warm. My hands are already tingling, man. It's been a dogfight no matter where you are on the track. All these guys are racing really competitively right now, and this is the most fun I think I've had in this league in a long time, man. So I'm having a good night, and hopefully you guys are too.
Well, that's what it's all about, Devin. We certainly hope the smiles continue for the rest of the night. Good talking to you. Good luck on the restart.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate it. Have fun, guys.
And here's the green flag restart with the leaders up front. Matt Stonick on the outside of row 1. Presley Sora, the race leader. And back to turns 1 and 2. They'll try and tally Ryan Vargas and Gary Sexton. Here comes Vargas again for the charge on the inside. He's got around 43 lap pressure tires. And then the driver of the 98. But so far, tires, Dylan, have not been the beneficiary for those as they're starting to stack up big time around the top 10.
Got a car on the apron into turn 1. I think he's going to save it. But yeah, I mean, Colin Fern was leading a big chunk of this race on tires that were 50, 60 laps older than the guys chasing him. So, I mean, depends on how well you manage your tires and just the preferred line that you prefer to run. I mean, that's really all it is, because you just see it. I mean, we have a bunch of guys like Presley Sora last put lap 73, then Matt Stolnick 106, and then everyone else behind them looked like 118. And then we just had some pin on that last caution. So again, there's a lot of different strategies. It's just going to depend on which cycle ends up at the top first.
And for the first time tonight, Scott, we are going to encounter, if we don't get a yellow, lapped traffic. We haven't uttered those words the entire night, but it's the 44 of Monin Rahman who is coming closer in the distance. How big of a factor will that be for Sora as he tries to hold on to the lead?
If I was a driver, I was definitely afraid of these cautions, but I was definitely more afraid of lap traffic. We've seen how hard it is to get around guys that are going near the same speed as you, but it's actually harder to get around guys that are slower than you. We've got multiple lanes here. You've got to judge that lap car coming in front of you and seeing what's going on. You got to find what lane he's going to be in and figure out how to go around him without losing time, because you don't want to lose time with the guy behind you. So these drivers, as much as they want to see a long green run, I don't know how much they want to see lap traffic either.
Now, 98 surely does not want to see the 44 utilize that high lane, because it's been the success for every leader that has taken a part of the front of the field so far tonight, and they are battling sincerely for position outside of the top 10. There's like a Michael Fisher who has encountered a lot of trouble tonight, but survival has worked to his favor. He's in that fight with Nick Olsen for position on the outskirts of the top 10, and this is getting squirrely, Dylan. Look how many trucks are in this group, all the way back to around 17th and 18th place.
You know what this looks like, Kenneth? Looks like a 20 truck wreck about to happen. I mean, this is what, I mean, you can throw a blanket on top of these guys, and I mean, there's not much of a, I mean, there's Presley Sora, but then second on back, I mean, they're all within about half of a second of each other. This is insane.
I'm just going to give you a tidbit here, Dylan. I really hope you don't cause a caution here with this thing. Sending the 17 of Cabinet sent around that was getting around the lap truck of Brandon Alf.
Tried to tell you.
Jordan Buster is involved. It was about a 3 or 4 truck pileup. Gary Sexton in it too.
There's your 7-car wreck under a blanket.
I was close. I was about halfway there, but I called it.
And Scott, you mentioned it, lap traffic, probably one of the most dangerous things to find here at a short track like Bristol. That's what bites Adam Cabot as he tries to get around.
Absolutely. We saw Brandon Houff get really slow here off the exit, I believe. Oh my gosh, he was just so slow. Got the field stacked up. Oh golly, it's just a mess from there.
It's so tough to predict when you have a truck, of course, slower because of the damage. Brandon Houff was just wanting to stay on the racing surface while not trying to impede any of the momentum from anyone. But of course, when you have this many trucks in that group, Dylan, that is going to happen. Somebody's going to get stacked up. Somebody's going to have to slow down to get around the lap truck safely. All of a sudden, what appeared to be 3 lanes open becomes 2, then becomes 1, then becomes a wreck.
Yeah, it's just a big accordion effect we talked about earlier. I mean, Presley Sora was really all good. Really, Colin Fern was too. But, you know, once you get past that, it was like a hell in a cell. I mean, those of you WWE fans, I mean, you had about 20 cars fighting for one spot. It almost looked like, and it certainly turned into what we really thought would happen it was a 7-car incident, but I was predicting something much bigger. But my goodness, that was wild. A lot of cars are down pit road getting damage fixed. But another thing that we have to look for here is 48 minutes left in this race. I mean, you know, we're ticking off the laps pretty quick, but you know, every caution's going to eat up a decent chunk of that time. And you know, we're approaching kind of the red zone of, is this going to end on time, or are we going to get to the scheduled distance, if not longer?
And if you're Presley Sora, Scott, are you thinking about that, or is the task at hand just to complete as many laps up front as possible, because that timer will go out when it goes out. Doesn't matter how many laps you have complete. If you're up front, you're up front. If you're not, you don't win.
I think Presley Sora definitely knows it for sure, but I don't think he's thinking too much about it because we, like you said, we have not had that happen yet this season. So I think it's definitely in the back of his mind, but not quite in the forefront yet. As we just continue on in this race, he might think more about it, but right now he's really looking to that 250. But again, the more cautions we have, the closer we will get to that time limit, the more it will move to the frontal lobe of his brain, and he'll be thinking a lot about it later for sure.
Well, he holds on to the top spot for now. He is trying to survive this hectic race so far from Bristol with the NASCAR trucks. But let's look ahead at the rest of the Season 7 schedule, Decon. And, of course, the next 3 races are going to be crucial in deciding the top 16 we'll have for the playoff bracket a little later on this year on December 11th at Homestead of Miami Speedway. But look at the race up next, a combo we've never seen before. GT4 Porsches at Long Beach. That was the decision by Corey Heim, last season's champion.
So, unbelievably, I think that race will be pretty tame. I think the first few laps will be kind of icky. You know, you might have a wreck or two, but, you know, it's just going to be an attrition battle. Those are guys that are just fast at road courses, a very technical road course at that, at Long Beach, are going to be the ones that are going to be out front, and then you're going to see that lead get stretched out all through the race. So I really think that's going to be tame, but then the next 2 weeks, oh, buddy, that's going to be a wild ride to the start of the playoffs.
It's a sprint to the end of the regular season, no doubt about it. Back to the green flag here at lap 169. Colin Fern and Presley Sora bring us to the front. And the 96 looking for a big run out of 2, and he's got it. He's got a help by the 24 of Nick Olsen. Colin Fern back to the race lead, to the lap.
We see Matt Stalnick in here. He's a little slow, but we've seen him in the back in a few wrecks, but he's up here in the top 5 as he's trying to get around. We see a battle of Presley Sora falling back now. Wow. As we see Colin Fern assume the lead yet again. He pitted earlier and was in 21st, and he's back in the lead now.
And look who's into 3rd. It's a specific Cole Cabry, looking like Cole Trickle out there in the number 51. Cabry certainly working the bottom here on Olsen, and he's almost making it work, but the It Takes Grit Chevrolet holds on to the spot, and he tries to get right to the back bumper of Colin Fern. Looks like a bit, Dylan. He's sending it into the corner, trying to force Fern's hand.
He's trying to make Colin Fern think a little bit, but Nick Olsen's hanging around there. Cole Cabry, it's about 3-4 horse race right now. Presley Sora trying to get back in the thick of things here. He's trying to run them down, but you notice a lot of them all running about the same line. I think the higher ground is going to end up winning this race. You're going to win this race on who's going to be able to run the high line a lot better. I mean, you look at Colin Fern. He was running the Waller. Now he's running the bottom. He's trying to figure out which lane is going to help defend better for him over the course of the race.
You know, I haven't heard the term high ground since watching episode 3 of Star Wars, but it certainly worked so far. When you're up the hill, that's when you play the best defense. That's where you're the fastest, and Fern does know a thing or two about it. He's done it multiple times tonight, although he's going to man the bottom here on the 24. Not worried about what the Grit Esports Chevrolet can do for now, although Olsen might have a charge. Not before the caution comes out. Monin Ramen in trouble, 75 to go.
Yeah, we'll see. I think that was just a single car spin if he didn't have contact with anybody. Just another caution. You know, let's see what happens here. The 12 of Brandon Brown gets him around. That's what it is. Brandon Brown sends it in. You know, that might have been, I'm not going to say it, but they had contact earlier, a bit more earlier in this story of the race. So Brandon Brown might have just seen the 44 of Monin Ramen and you know, I'm not going to say payback, but it looks like just a racing incident there. So I'm not going to say that, but, you know, they did have contact earlier.
Well, it's not that hard to make that decision, of course, and certainly could be the case. Some beef arriving at Bristol, but the 12 does get into the back of the 44. That sends him around in a rather harmless spin. We'll see what race control deems it. We've seen many incidents for racing going on tonight. We haven't really seen that many penalties thrown around. I think the last one we saw was to the 01 of Josh Slade for causing a most recent caution. He was deemed at fault for the incident. He took blame for it, so therefore that did result in an end-of-line penalty. But as for 44 and the 12, no official word on that yet. We'll see what they decide as we move forward. But what a race built up by Colin Fern so far tonight. And we're getting closer here to another caution. And of course, Dylan, to the timer ticking down on this server. We're around 40 minutes out from the end of this race. And it tells me that we'll go 18 more minutes if we go green the rest of the way. But obviously, that's not confirmed. And obviously, that's not guaranteed.
Well, I'm going to save you a bunch of time. It's not going to happen. I mean, it's not going to happen. I mean, we got 70 laps to go. That's 70 opportunities to at least cause a wreck. I mean, if you really break it up between sets of quarters, that's 140 chances. If they make it all the way to the green, I mean, I'll be utterly impressed. But I think we're going to at least have one more caution.
Scott, do you believe the same?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've 70 to go, 15-second laps if we stay green, which again, I think the longest green flag run we've had is I want to say 25 to 30 laps. So, you know, we're going to see at least 2 or 3 more cautions. So I'd also be surprised. The odds are very low on us making it to the end on laps here.
We'll just have to find out, though. We do have information from pit road. Presley Sora, Ryan Vargas among those to come in. DJ Cummings followed suit. So did Robbie Lyons and Ford Martin, Jordan Buster, James Bickford, Alex Monteferrante, you name it, Reed Wilson, Blake McCandless. The list continues, but for Sora and for Vargas, 2 heavy hitters late in the going. They're going to respawn here in 13th and 14th on this green flag restart. And many times we've seen drivers who pit, go to the back of the field, they end up in some sort of trouble. But Vargas and Presley Sora, you're looking at it left and right of your screen. They're certainly not hoping for it, as we'll double them up and get ready for another green flag restart with 69 to go.
Yeah, they're going to be back in that hurricane, as we called it. Not exactly where they want to be, but we saw Presley Sora. We just saw him on that last run. He started with the lead, and we just saw him slowly fading through the top 5 there. We saw that those tires, old tires, had finally gotten to him, and he knew that he was going to have to pit or he'd just keep falling to the field. So now he's just going to try to, in his words, survive.
Here we go. 69 to go. Colin Fern is taking the dirt track approach. He is way up as high as he can go. Next to Nick Olsen. They're going to bring us back to the green flag restart. And Fern out and away by clear decision. Cole Cabry charging on the bottom. But for how long can he last? Answer is not long at all. The 24 aimed his nose through the middle, almost 3 wide, but did not pull that punch, at least for the moment. And the 96 of Fern holds on to it. Now Olsen tries to dial up the middle.
Yeah, things get single file up here, but again, the high ground's winning here. Colin Fern's running that high line as he backflips the wall off the floor there. But it's going to be about, if you can move him out of the way and run higher than him, I think that's what's going to win you the race here.
And here at Bristol, we know certainly physicality helps you get to the top spot if you're able to slightly move a driver out of the way like you alluded to. But how aggressive do you get in moving Fern out of the way, Scott? But Olsen really has to keep his patience here behind the race leader.
You get aggressive as you can, but you know, again, if you spin a guy out and it's not quite just a race, you fear that end of line penalty. It's scary. You know, you've worked for all this track position, and you don't want to get that end of line penalty, because that means at this point your race is over. So you want to be as aggressive as you can, but you don't want to get a guy around. So Nick Olsen is just gonna follow serve here, keep as close to Colin Fern as he can without letting Cole Cabry by, and see what he can do. As we've got
down
another caution.
again, Alex Monteferrante and Joshua Slate with a crazy crash. And it appears they brought Presley Sora with them too. He picked up some damage. And we'll take a look at the replay here, Dylan.
Well, let's see what happened as I was right again, as Sora got knocked out of shape, and then they just bottlenecked behind him. Sora actually didn't end up too bad, and holy cow, Kato, that was piled into Joshua Slate there. I believe that was the 7 machine of Will Rogers. Yeah, it all started about halfway through the field, and then it accordion back to the back of the pack as DJ Cummings looked like, yeah, he got into the back of Presley Sora and turned him around sideways, and that caused that wreck.
This happened right in front of our buddy of Devin Henry there. He evaded another one.
He gets through barely. We'll get an onboard look with him as there's another look with Slate. Will Rogers, the driver out of Maui, Hawaii, the Season 2 champion of this series. Ends up right in the back bumper of Slate's 01. And Slate is going to give him payback. He sends the 7 around out of turn 4. Well, there's the Bristol beef we were looking for.
Absolutely. I don't think that's going to go over well with race control. We're going to see what happens there. But, oh, he is obviously not happy with the 7. Oh, gosh. Bristol beef it is.
It's Bristol, baby.
Slate, of course, not happy with Rogers getting into that crash late. And so both of them will have to take a trip into pit road and, of course, get their damage fixed. But the 01 looks like will stay out, although he did pit 2 laps ago. So, indeed, he did get some damage repair. There are takers on pit road. One of them is Matt Stonick, the 44 of Monin Ramen. They are in for service. Everybody else, though, it appears will stay out. And here with 60 laps to go when we cross the line next, let's talk the tire discrepancy again, Dylan. It doesn't seem to be affecting Colin Fern all too much, but it is a 30-lap difference from first to second on tire wear. Nick Olsen has run 40 laps on his set. Cole and Chase Cabry the same. Corey Deucer, then Bailey Turner. You have to go all the way back to Adam Cabot to get somebody on another strategy with 24 laps down on his set of Goodyear Eagles.
Again, we'll see how it goes here, because we've had enough of a heat cycle and enough of a run here where, I mean, Colin Fern's almost approaching 80, 90 laps on that set of tires. But you have to imagine that it's not necessarily the wear that's going to hurt him, but it's going to be about grip that he's going to lose.
And also going to be about lines. And when we talked to Brandon Brown a little earlier in this race, Scott, one thing that he said, apart from that Colin Fern is very good, so is Ryan Vargas, competition around him, is that Colin had been saving his tires. So although he does have an older set, it appears he's saving them to the maximum ability so that later in this race, he does have the same tire life as a guy like Nick Olsen or Cole or Chase Cabry, who have been burning up their stuff trying to catch up to him.
Absolutely. We saw earlier that, you know, he was holding up in front on 50-lap older tires than the guys behind him. So only 30 laps or so above them now. You know, that's a lot, but we talk about 50 from earlier. But we saw earlier that Colin Fern knows how to save these tires, and that is definitely what he's doing now. I believe with the tires he has, he could still run away from Olsen, but, you know, we see him just holding right there, just keeping Nick Olsen right there, dodging his pace, not trying to get too far out front, and save that tire so that he can stay out front here for this restart.
58 to go, this time by Fern Olsen, row number 1. Green in the air once more from Bristol, and Fern shuts the door up top. Olsen gives him the bumper. Cole Cabry on the bottom for second. Make that a 4 or so truck breakaway, and it turns 3 and 4.
He's
getting a little dicey up front now. It's about go time here. We got about 35 minutes left in this session, so I don't think the time limit's going to be an issue now. We ran enough green, but again, I've been wrong before.
Well, here's Olsen, slide job, up to the leader, unsuccessful. Now he's in the middle, 3 wide.
And open the door for Chase Cabry on the bottom there. If that slide job doesn't work, it's going to open up the door for more cars to come through as Cabry's going to move into second place now.
51 shuts the door. Look on board with Adam Cabot. Reminder, he's got the freshest set of tires out of anyone in this top 5, but he fights often here with Bailey Turner into the corner. Now almost makes it 3 wide. Caution is out again, and there's more stacking up behind. Devin Henry's around in front of Blake McCandless, who causes the initial caution.
With the way this race is going for the McCandless, I bet you he is dying that he had packet loss issues last week, as we see the replay here for our playoff picture, as we see, I think that was a 41 just gets slow. McCandless gets tagged. Nothing he could do. Ran on the apron just trying to get around it and gets tagged. Nothing he really could have done there as we ride along with the 71 of Blake McCandless going into 3. Sees the wreck in front of him, tries to get low, and just gets tagged. Nothing he could have done.
And he tries to hold on to it. He swings the car to the right in an effort to save it, but it overcorrects, goes right up into the safer barrier, and the smoke was coming out of the back end of his Chevrolet Silverado. This is the second bit of contact that happened after the yellow flew. They had a big stack up top, starting with guys like Robbie Lyons. It appears it began really with Corey Deucer in the 04, then went all the way back to the train. Then it stacked up Sexton, stacks up the 77, who gets hit by Reed Wilson. Presley Sora gets a piece of the damage, and Devin Henry, who definitely said was having a lot of fun tonight, unfortunately gets the contact, and around he goes as we have a taker on pit road from the top 2. Dylan Connolly, the 51 of Cole Cabry, is in.
That's an interesting decision, as Nick Olsen stayed out and Joey Paget's also stayed out. So it's funny, they've pitted for tires, or at least pitted twice since Colin Fern has last taken tires. So we'll see how this goes in this last 50 laps or so, but real interesting decision by a lot of these guys to pit. Of course, we'll say that every time that they pit, because everyone is on so many different cycles and every different strategies that it's really jumbling up this race a little bit.
Now, it's a question as well whether this will cue Fern, Olsen, Paget, those guys up front to come down pit road sooner if the cautions continue to wave. So for the Cabry brothers, they're going to lodge in track position. They're going to be buried in the mid-pack. We'll see what they can do, but tires certainly have not been the big difference in all of this, Scott. We've seen it happen here and there, but track position really seems to matter. A point that we've been harping on since the beginning of qualifying, how it all mattered where you started the race, because, you know, you were going to have a hard time trying to get around trucks, and that seems to be the discipline here tonight. Is you be patient as much as you can, because track position and gaining track position is going to be really difficult to come by.
Absolutely. I think one of the reasons Colin Fern is also so good at saving tires here is that, you know, we've seen just 10 lap runs, and the tires really aren't getting too hot, so they're not creating as much wear as we would get on a long green flag run, which is why I believe he's being able to stretch this set so far. You know, with the way things are going, I don't think we'd see Fern back in the pits, because, you know, we see Cole Cabry, Chase Cabry down there now, down in 14th and 15th, and they're stacked back there. It's going to be, even though they're on fresh tires, you know, the guys in front of them have, you know, 10 lap old, 20 lap old, so it's not a big jump to the next guys in front. It's kind of progressive, so it's going to be hard fought battles with the guys in front of you. So I would like where Colin Fern, Nick Olsen, Joey Paget, Ryan Vargas, and Robbie Lyons in the top 5. I like where they're sitting.
Well, just a reminder, there are about 28 minutes left in this session if we get to that 2-hour time limit, but we are around 49 laps to go on this restart. As here's Colin Fern, Nick Olsen on row number 1. The 24 looks for an early jump, but the 96 goes later, and that bit of a discrepancy might be reviewed by race control as they get the green flag through. Paget on the inside of Ryan Vargas for 3rd. Now the 30 tries to dodge underneath the 24, and they swing for turns 3 and 4 to complete the lap. Off the restart, Fern holds on to the lead. Olsen and Vargas 2nd and 3rd.
Real interesting start. Fern, it looked like he was just running up the racetrack like he has every restart he's been in charge of tonight. And it looked like Olsen barely went and then stopped, but as soon as Fern saw that, then Fern went and capitalized on that little mistake that Olsen made, but wanted to see what race control rules there, if that was deemed anything that was malicious intent or otherwise. But I really don't think there was anything wrong there. It was just a mistiming of the restart.
Race control gives no official word on that, so they're going to let them race, and they are not going to make a penalty decision, so that's good news for Olsen. And look further back in this top 5, you'll find a bright red number 8 of Jordan Buster, the driver out of Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and spotter as a professional. Buster has moved his way into the top 5 after starting 27th. He is the largest mover, plus 22 since the drop of the green.
Absolutely. We see Jordan Buster 22 positions up. What a feat. I mean, absolutely amazing. He's just trying to survive here in the last bit in the top 5. He would love to get a great points day finish. As we see Nick Olsen in the wall, Ryan Vargas charges down under him. But again, a great day so far for Jordan Buster. He's just praying and hoping he can make it to the end in this top 5.
He's going to stay in that outside single file train. Contact between the 2 points leaders. Bigford and Adam Cabot trying to force 3 wide. Now Vargas gets sent sideways in the front of the field, gets everybody stacked up. And this is going to slow a bunch of drivers down. How do they settle this? It'll settle with a caution flag. And now they're wrecking. DJ Cummings in Stonick hard into the wall.
Wow. Started with Ryan Vargas there it looked like he got real loose into the corner there, and it just stacked everybody up going into the corner, and there was no way once Ryan Vargas got that slow that we knew that a caution was going to have to happen as we go to the replay here.
It all started up front. Look at this stack up here, Dylan.
Bailey Turner.
Bailey Turner, it appears, was the driver to officially cause the caution. He gets hit from behind by Monin Rahman while slowing down. Everybody tried to check up. He goes into the wall, and he was livid over the radio. And then up in front, as the yellow waves, DJ Cummings and Matt Stonick, they get hooked together right about here, and that sends the 10 directly into the wall.
Yeah, that was just I don't know what that was exactly. I mean, he had plenty of time to check up and just ran through him, but it's getting real dicey right now. It was just a big stack up after it looked like Vargas got ran over by Nick Olsen. But after that, there were a few guys that were just like, oh yeah, there's no wreck here. I'm just gonna keep going. But we're under caution again after that.
So at lap 211, yellow is out once more, and Colin Fern will have to pick up the pace truck for another time in front of Nick Olsen and Joey Padgett, rounding out the rest of the top 3. Ryan Vargas, with that bit of contact, does have some left rear damage, but he falls back to 6. We're going to wait on official race control decision there, but we assume that it will be Monin Rahman at fault for the contact with Bailey Turner. That would appear to be the second time that he is involved and directly causing a crash, which we said results in an end-of-line penalty by race control. Scott, they're definitely going to get stricter here as these drivers get more physical, but it was really hard to get everybody through. What did you notice most there about our most recent pileup?
Absolutely, race control, they're also looking at this time. It's not just the drivers. They're looking, we've got 25 minutes to go, 40 laps to go, and they always want to get to the end here as that's what they intended. So they are going to crack down more. We just saw, we saw up front Vargas get loose there and create a pileup, but the caution wasn't actually caused, but further back in the field by a separate spin of Monin Rahman, I believe, getting into Bailey Turner. And Bailey Turner was obviously not happy about that because he was up in the top 5 earlier after battling back. So you're just going to see tempers flare here again as we get to the end. So drivers are going to get more aggressive, and so with that, race control will also get more aggressive in their calls. So this is, again, the aggressive racing that we expected here in the end, as we still have upset drivers on the radio.
Still talking it over here as we get this caution ended. We'll double them up here for another restart at lap 215. We certainly appreciate everybody tuning in tonight on Podium Esports. It's been a long race so far. The Highland Homes Roofing 250 still yet to decide a winner. We are almost about 20 or so minutes out from the end of the race on time. We are approximately 37 laps away from the end of this race in laps. Whichever comes first will decide the race regardless, and we'll have a different winner tonight. In terms of the points lead battle, Adam Cabot currently holds the upper hand. He is 4th. James Bigford further back through the top 23. Green flag in the air once again. Fern gets a solid jump. Olsen back in 2nd, and much like we've seen out of the 3rd place truck, often decon on the restarts, Adam Cabot charges for the inside, but with no success of the moment.
Yeah, you're pushing the leader there, so you would think, well, the leader's got a pretty good run at it because he's able to get to the top, but you got to remember, if you're in 3rd place, you're going to have a car above you unless you get an excellent restart. So I really think if you're in 2nd or you're in 4th, you're on that outside line, it's almost better to restart there. It's almost better to restart in 4th than, say, 3rd place, for instance.
Here's Adam Cabot. He made the move on Nick Olsen using the inside lane. He is on 18-lap old tires. Now he puts the fight to the number 96 for the race lead on the inside. He tries to dial it through. Fern is going to hold his own on the very top, and we've got a door-to-door battle for position number 1 inside 35 to go.
So there's nothing much Fern here can do, as there's a 80-lap different tire strategy here. Colin Fern's just going to try to hang on that outside, get the run off the corner, but I think it's inevitable here that Cabot gets the leader. As he does, Fern gets loose in the corner as Fern goes for the crossover down in the bottom. Let's see how that works out for him. He's running this top. I don't know how successful the bottom will be. He'll try, and we have a caution. I think Fern there had the lead. If at the caution point, we'll see how that works out as we have a caution. I believe that was Matt Stolnicht.
Fern indeed had the lead at the moment of yellow, and it was the 41 who gets into it this time. Yellow is out once again underneath 30 laps to go. The driver out of Syracuse, New York, in the latest bit of contact. It starts with Reed Wilson on the outside.
We'll look at the replay here shortly, but again, it's another caution here early in this race, late in this race, as there's Ford Martin there in the thick of things there, as trying to figure out what exactly happened there. As just got doored off the corner as Stolnick got shuffled down to the inside wall, and it's going to create a lot of engine issues for that vehicle as we're under the caution here again, 29 to go.
And a rough night for Stolnick here from Bristol, who came away with a 28th place finish at Charlotte last week, 7 laps down. It was not a race he wanted to remember. Tonight is no different. Here is the race leader, though, coming onto pit road after more than 100 laps of staying out on track. Him and Nick Olsen are going to come in, and I was about to mention, Scott, how the 24 was getting eaten up by traffic. It appears they have finally hit the cliff. This is the decision for Fern. Now, whether it works out is going to be the case, because we're inside 29 laps to go. Fern, though, is probably expecting some more yellows and some more track position along the way, but he'll take this call now.
Absolutely. You know, we saw Nick fall through the field, and you know, he knew probably the next caution he was going to have to take it, as well as Colin Fern. You know, we saw Adam Cabot charging on the bottom, and I think without that caution, Adam Cabot for sure would have had the lead between the two of them. So I think you just had to come in there as much as he didn't want to. I think those guys that pitted around lap 199 to 200, like Chase, Cole Cabry, all of them, they really had the right strategy as it looks out for now, as we have just under 30 to go, as Reed Wilson comes down pit road here after causing that contact with Matt Stolnicht.
It was deemed the fault for the incident, so he's on pit road. Michael Hall, race control, giving that message out to everybody and giving a message to everyone on track right now. We are getting approached to the sacred 10 lap to go mark, where if you do cause a caution, you do get an end of line penalty and will not be allowed to qualify for the following week at Long Beach with the GT4 Porsche. So that certainly will matter. And Dylan, we'll take another look at our driver wall. Everybody sort of going through their own motions here at Bristol Motor Speedway. None of them Adam Cabot, who currently holds on to the lead.
Well, we're missing one now. We're down to 8 on the driver wall. Sounds like somebody blew up as they came down pit road, but we'll find out who that is shortly. But they all look pretty relaxed for being, 27 to go, 20 minutes to go, and tempers flaring and fenders getting flared out and all kinds of stuff going on. But that was a good look at our driver wall there. Yep, all cool, calm, and collected.
I'm sure everything below has been a little crazy, a little chaotic. We'll get the restart. 25 laps to go from Bristol. Run through your top 10 right quick. Adam Cabot is the race leader. Cole Cabry on the outside. Joey Paget and Chase Cabry going to be in 3rd and 4th in row number 2. Ryan Vargas is 5th. Michael Fisher in P6. Corey Deucer 7th. 8th to Jordan Mustard. 9th to Gary Sexton. And Ford Martin, who has spent a lot of this race going back and forth through the field after starting in 30th. He rounds out the current top 10. Well, here's the 17. The Glen Gardner, New Jersey native is up and away from Bristol. 25 to go.
Good restart for Cabot there, as he's going to have the big run off the corner. Cole Cabry to his inside. He might be able to clear him. He's side by side, and then Cabot's going to have the run off of 4 as they come to the start-finish line. Everything's single file through about the top 10 now.
Well, the top 3 all even in terms of tire wear. Now 29 laps they will have on their set of Goodyear Eagles. Look at this big battle developing behind Ford Martin. He came into this race 16th in points, and we're 3 wide.
Oh, this is like Monteferrante around. Oh, the Brandon Brown is around. They're all around. Oh, goodness.
And the 07 in the wall, bringing the 5 with him. And there's the look at Ford Martin as he gets involved in the crash. It looks like Colin Fern, who pitted most recently, also got a piece of this at the end of it. He went for a spin and hit the inside wall. And Dylan, when you have all those trucks all together, it's going to bound to be a pileup at some point. And just that the little bit of contact while they're 3 wide sends the 07 sideways, beginning with Monteferrante in the 97.
That's exactly why I didn't love the decision of Colin Fern to pit there. If I was him, I would have stayed out as long as I could, because you're still hanging on for the first position up there, but then you go back in the field like that, you open yourself up for anything like that. But it looks like he's not too bad off. But that's really just the concern I had, is they are 3 freaking wide as they go through the corner here. I believe they're almost 4 wide. And it was big time racing in the middle there as they got loose, and then Ford got turned around, and it was on from there.
Nick Olson also got a piece of the damage. He was in the heart of the wreck. There's the 96, who does get the front end damage after sniping the inside wall, getting loose after getting through it. And here's a look at from Fern. He does not get much of the damage from the actual incident itself, but rather here in the aftermath. Right about here, he clips the apron. That truck goes sideways. He aims at saving it. He holds on to the brakes, and that's a slap to the inside wall. And a great point you made there, Dylan, about giving up all that track position. That's what you get in return. You're risking being involved in those big crashes. And Scott, Adam Cabot, Cole Cabry, Chase Cabry, is that in your mind now? I mean, I know the Cabrys have done it multiple times tonight, but is it certainly the mindset of, I mean, I probably need to get out of this. 20 laps to go. If I give up track position, my race is done.
Absolutely. If you're those top 3, you know, they're on 32 lap old tires, but they are not thinking about pitting. Pit road, that is done for them. They have what they have, and what is out front of them is what they're going to get. I would look at also Joey Paget here in 4th with 81 or so lap old tires, also to stay out for probably the reason you just said, Dylan. He knows that he doesn't want to be back in that mess, and that he would take a solid points day finish rather than, you know, try to race for the win. He's probably thinking this is a great points finish. So sad for those guys in the back, with Ford Martin getting an end of line penalty. He's been back and forth from the front to the back all day long. And again for Brandon Brown, you know, we saw him up early in this race battling, and he knew that this was a strength for him this race. So really sad to see him back there after he was doing so good.
Yeah, it's been tough for many drivers tonight. Speaking of drivers who are now out of this race, the 44 of Monin Rahman, he is now disqualified from tonight's Highland Homes Roofing 250 challenge. The Ford Martin machine in the 07, he was deemed at fault for the incident. He will get the end of line penalty. That'll be 1 of 2 strikes given to each driver. We'll go side by side, and we are now 17 laps away from the conclusion of tonight's race, but we are inching closer to the final 10 minutes of session action we have left. So it'll probably come down to a crunch between the laps or the time. But nonetheless, Adam Cabot is looking to run the clock or the laps all the way down to the checkered to get his 2nd win of the season and his 6th in his Monday night racing career. Cole Cabry looking to get his 1st in his rookie campaign. Chase Cabry, Joey Paget right behind to give support in row number 2. Pace truck is down. Barney the flagman waits anxiously for the 2 leaders to get us back going. With 17 laps to go, the 17 of Adam Cabot brings them to 1 and 2.
Single file through the top 5. And it's getting real hairy back there again in the back of the pack again.
Colin Fern asking, why are we going 3 wide at the back of this first pack? The 17 is going to shut the door on the 51 for the race lead. Will come across the line and 15 laps to go. And if you're Cole here, Scott, is there anything you can do alternatively to get around the 17?
Absolutely, run a different line.
Trouble in the back.
Oh, goodness. You know, if you're Cole Cabry here, as we see the 41 of Max Stolnick around, again, I believe this is his 3rd or 4th incident. Who knows what happened? We'll see here in just a moment. But just like you were saying, Kenneth, Cole Cabry is looking at, he's going to do the opposite of the leader. You can't follow, even though this is a short track, you can't follow him in unless you want to give him the bump. Let's see what happened here on the replay.
Well, I really enjoy that Colin Fern was complaining about making it 3 wide for blanking 20th, as he immediately makes it 3 wide for blanking 22nd, causes that wreck, it looks like. But I mean, that's just that. I mean, that's not my words. It's what he says. But there is a rule that's coming up here. You know, probably after this restart. You know, we mentioned the new rules this week with the EOF causing caution. There is a new little twing in that rule. Inside of 10 laps to go, if you cause an incident, not only will you get an EOL and an incident point, but additionally, you will not be allowed to qualify the following week. So again, if you cause a wreck after this next restart, you're probably starting in the back next week.
And if you're any one of those guys, either close or in the top 16, have to think about that sincerely, about staying careful, not wanting to cause a caution, because if you're not allowed to qualify for Long Beach, that race goes awry. It could be a skid that develops from tonight's race at Bristol. Those ripple effects certainly come in, as a matter of fact, in the 41. That look there going 3 wide. I believe he was looking for the 96 to make a move on the bottom. He swerved up in reaction, then comes up the track into the truck above. And around he goes. They are deeming Stolnick as the reason for the caution. So he will be docked with an end-of-line penalty as we're on the outskirts of 10 laps to go. So for Adam Cabot here, Scott, a lot riding for him. He is 2nd in the point standings going into tonight, and with the back and forth race that James Bickford has been able to go through over tonight's event, how important is this for Adam Cabot here to extend the points lead with a W?
Exactly what I was going to say. You know, we see James Bickford, he's sitting back in 11th right now, and you know, while that is a pretty good points day just right outside the top 10, that's nothing compared to the win, and especially with Cabot already having a win this season, that put them tied at 2 wins, and will probably propel Cabot to the lead. So he's absolutely looking for the win here. You know, while 2nd, 3rd, 4th would also be a good points day for him, as a driver, you always want the win, and so they're absolutely going to race it out for the win here. So I would not be surprised to see it quite aggressive in the top 5 here. But again, like Dylan said, they've got to think about that penalty now that we're inside 10 laps to go. You definitely don't want to cause a caution here and not be able to qualify next week. So really, as a driver, it's kind of battling between those two. It's where is the edge of the aggressive line I can be on? How can I take this opportunity and run with it?
And does it depend on driver? Because we've got 2 tails at stake for the top 2 positions. Adam Cabot, seasoned veteran here in Monday Night Racing, looks to be aiming for his 6th career win in this series, which will tie him for 3rd all-time. Cole Cabry, who has won multiple races in the Summer Series a couple of months ago, he's still yet to get his first Pro Series W. His last Summer Series win came with the Gen 4s at Homestead on August 14th. He's had a lot of experience here with the drivers around. How desperate and aggressive is he willing to get for this race win inside 10 laps to go? Trying to end this one on laps. We are 8 minutes away from the conclusion on time at the 2-hour limit. It is Cabot up front, Cole Cabry on the outside, and as the 17 gets into the Geico restart zone, he gets the gas pedal first. We're back under green from Bristol. Will this be the last restart?
Yeah, probably not.
great point, Dylan. Probably not. As we see Chase Cabry following Cole Cabry, following Adam Cabot, as Cole is going to try to run the top here, get a run off of the corner just to catch up to Adam. But Adam has got a...
Caution out again. Trouble. Bailey Turner and Devin Henry.
Hey, guess what happened?
I'm going to go with a caution.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a wild guess.
It's a different driver who caused it, though. Robbie Lyons gets loose initially. We'll take a look at the replay. Devin Henry. It looks like Robbie Lyons claims he's going to park it over the radio. So here he is in the Great Esports #2, Season 3 champion of the series. And that's getting loose all by his lonesome. I don't think anyone really helped him there, Dylan.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. Again, it's big stack-ups in the back almost, as we're on board with Devin Henry right here. As two cars just gets loose in front of him, and he gets tagged. He goes up. Oh, my goodness. He got clobbered, knocked every fender off that 77 truck. He's been having a good race tonight. He was kind of keeping it clean. He had that one spin earlier, but Devin got knocked around right there.
He was having a lot of fun, too, when we talked to him, and there's the ricochet off the wall. Bailey Turner has been through a lot tonight and just cannot catch a break here from Bristol. He gets involved in another one, and surprisingly enough, his Celsius Chevrolet is still intact despite all of the damage he has accrued over the night. Here's a look from Brandon Brown, who almost gets through it, but then gets a piece of it, and that appears to be Reed Wilson in the 66. Also tank slapping the outside wall, Scott, and bringing us another 3-truck plus accident tonight.
Absolutely, we just saw getting getting loose in there. We should have named Devin Henry our in-race reporter, as he's seen just about every wreck we've had and has seemed to scrape by most of them. But again, like Dylan said, not surprised that we've had another caution here. Like we're getting down to these in-race penalties, as we have Robbie Lyons on the chat saying bye-bye everybody as he's bowed out after that. We're just going to see these last few laps. We've got just under 5 minutes to go here with, I believe, 4 to go or 3. We'll probably have 2 to go coming to the green, and we'll probably get our final finish there.
We'll see if the lights come off from the iRacing official pace truck. We are roughly 5 minutes away from the end of this race. At the 2-hour time limit, we are going to go another lap before we bring the field to double file action again. And we are inching closer, Dylan, to green, white, checkered territory. Now, given we'll probably hit the 2-hour limit before we even complete green, white, checkered attempts tonight from Bristol, but it is something worthy of notes. We'll have an organic restart this time by, but should we get another yellow and should the drivers get aggressive and cause another one, then we'll end up extending this race.
Yeah, it's... surely I hope they can make it one lap around without wrecking some point in here. I mean, now that they still have 2 laps so they can wreck, but I think their chances of making it around one time, one 15-second lap, are pretty high.
So we'll dumb them up again on a green flag restart this time, and an organic restart. 2 laps to go here from Bristol. Adam Cabot and Cole Cabry still the cast up front. Chase Cabry and Joey Padgett 3rd and 4th. There's a look at our driver wall, and it's gone down by 2 over the course of this race. I don't know if we've ever had a stat like that before, where we've seen the cameras slowly but surely degrade over time in numbers, but drivers who are still here are still here. They are thugging this one out and trying to hold it for a little bit longer. 2 laps to go here from the last Great Coliseum. Adam Cabot in search of his 2nd win in Season 7. We'll have discretion on the restart. Green flag back in the air for turn 1.
We'll see Cole and Chase follow him in here. Cole is going to try to go for that win. As a driver, you're hungry for the first win as he rides the top, trying to get that momentum off the corner, as we'll have 1 to go here.
The 17 grabs the white flag. This race is official, and we will end it under the time limit. The 51 of Cole Cabry looking for his first win, but out of turn 4, it will not be enough. Checkered flag in the air. Adam Cabot, 6th career Monday Night Racing win.
Mercifully.
And after a bloodbath that took us a little under 2 hours to complete in session, Adam Cabot gets to celebrate on the front straightaway. He wins tonight's Highland Homes Roofing 250. and will bring it into Bristol victory lane. For the 17 truck who started tonight 11th in the race, wasn't really seen all too much until the very end, Dylan. What a job to hold the field off, and he's your winner tonight.
Yeah, that's an excellent win by Adam Cabot right here. I mean, he stayed out of trouble. It's an excellent job by him tonight. He held ground as soon as he was able to get the lead, and he never let it go.
So with this win from Bristol, it makes him tied for third on the Monday Night Racing all-time wins list. He ties with Anthony Alfredo, Corey Heim, and David Schildhaus for all-time wins at 6, still behind Shane Van Gisbergen and Nick DeGroot. What a race here from Bristol. We'll take a short moment and step away. We'll gather our thoughts before getting post-race coverage here on Podium Esports. You won't miss a thing.
Mach 10. Let's give Mach 10.
You're cleared for takeoff.
After 250 grueling laps here from Bristol, we end tonight's Highland Homes Roofing 250 with Adam Cabot at the front of it all, getting his second win of the season. Cole and Chase Cavery were inseparable throughout the race, and despite starting in the top 3 and holding on to the lead for a bulk of it, they finished tonight's race second and third. Joey Padgett in the 83 fought hard all night long. He goes from 14th on the starting grid to 4th tonight. Ryan Vargas rounds out the rest of tonight's top 5. Corey Deucer with an impressive race. For Speed Factor, he comes home in 6th. And our biggest mover of the night, Michael Fisher, also for the Speed Factor camp, started 28th. He moves his way to 7th place at the checkered. Presley Sora is in 8th. James Bigford, the former points leader, is in 9th. Jordan Buster rounds out the top 10, Dylan.
So we'll go back to 11th place. Gary Sexton finishing in 11th. Alex Monteferrante back in 12th position. Nick Olson coming in 13th. Will Rogers, P14. Matt Stallneck got thrown around like a bumper car all night. He finishes 15th. Joshua Slate, 16th. Devin Henry had a good race till he got the front end knocked off his car at last caution, P17. Brandon Brown, P18, Colin Fern led a good chunk of this race and then pitted, and the strategy bit him in the Tookus, finishing P19th, and boss man Ford Martin finishing in P20, and Scott's going to lead us through the rest of the field.
And finally, in 21st position, we'll have Bailey Turner, who got involved in so many incidents. It was a pinball episode for him this race. And we had our pole sitter, Reed Wilson, coming in 22nd after just having a rough race. Seemed like he couldn't get the setup right in his car, just tried to survive. Then in 23rd, DJ Cummings, and in 23rd, DJ Cummings, 24, Brandon Houff, at 25th, Blake Candelas, and then we have Mario Miranda, Ellis, Tate, Robbie Lyons, who said peace out with about 10 to go after getting disqualified, and then Monin Rahman, who also got disqualified 37 laps down. That'll round out our top 31.
31 trucks here from Bristol, many of them beaten and battered, but it's one Adam Cabot who survives the chaos and grabs his second win of Season 7. We'll bring in Adam from Victory Lane here at Bristol Motor Speedway. And Adam, I'm sure with how that race went, I'm sure that a win probably wasn't expected based on the chaos that happened, but how do you feel? What are your emotions tonight after your second race win of the year?
Yeah, that was kind of a shit show, wasn't it? I don't know. It's kind of like the last race I won in this league. I don't really know how I got here, but here I am in Victory Lane, so I won't complain about it. Yeah, I tried just racing like I always do, but then there were just so many wrecks and a lot of lack of respect, and we had a lap car going like 70 miles an hour on the track while we were all packed up 3 wide and slid up in front of me, and I think me running into him and crashing is what got me off strategy and helped me win the race. I kind of just didn't lift for a giant wreck at one point, just passed everyone, ended up in 4th place, and at that point I was the first car on tires, and that's kind of what won me the race there. I mean, me and the Cabries, we were all on the same strategy, on the same cycle, and they were ahead of me for pretty much the whole race, and it was basically impossible to pass if you were on the same cycle as someone if you didn't have a tire differential. But it was, I mean, you could pass if you got to the outside of them, but people just protected the outside like they should, and the truck just has no power here. So like, if it was the Cup car or the Xfinity car, you could run the bottom for a long run. Granted, we didn't actually get any long runs tonight anyway, but you could run the bottom and after 10, 20 laps, just kind of work people over, make passes down there. But like, unless you had a massive tire differential, those passes weren't being made. And then, like what I feel like always happens to me, I'm battling Colin, and he's on a lot older tires, and I'm trying to get by him, and I pull a slider on him, and then he tries to kind of pull a slider back, and the second he has a fender ahead of me, the caution came out, and I was thinking, man, this is, I still feel like I was in a decent spot, but I knew it wasn't going to be easy to pass him, and then he just pulled off the track and pit, which was obviously a terrible call. But he got himself up there all race and just kind of, I guess, threw away his chance at a win, or at least a top 3 at the end, which made things a lot easier for me. Then I just had about 20 different chances to practice the restarts at the end. And after the second or third, when I was in the wrong gear for the first one, I was in second. And, he was the 51 was almost able to keep it on my outside, but luckily I was able to clear him. And then for the rest of the restarts, just used first gear, got a good jump, and then just didn't make any mistakes the last, couple laps that we were able to get in, and especially that last, I guess it ended up being a green-white checkered. So just, didn't want to let him get to my outside. I knew if I, just kind of mirror drove a little bit and just hit my marks that I should have it in the bag. So, we had a lot of damage on this truck tonight, and no tires left in the pits. And the second I said, hey, I'm just going to drive like an asshole, all of a sudden I ended up in the lead. So, I don't know, kind of worked out. I guess it was fitting that we had Towley on the box tonight, because these guys were driving like they maybe were under the influence. But it all worked out. And like I said, I'm in a good mood. I can't complain about getting a win in this series. I think this is the first time, believe it or not, I've won 2 races in a single season. So we'll take that win. We'll take that momentum. I think we got the points lead back here. And next week we've got the Corey Heim special, the GT4 at Long Beach. We'll have to see if he shows up for that. So we'll go on to next week and have some fun. I think that'll be a fun combo. And I know a lot of us, all of us probably will have to do a lot of learning and practicing to figure that out. But something new to switch it up. There's no way. I mean, at least we're going to go green. There's no manual cautions in the road course race. So that'll certainly be nice.
I hear you there, Adam. It was certainly a chaotic one tonight from Bristol, but you mentioned the points lead, and that goes right into my second question, where you were 2 points out from the points lead with James Bickford right alongside you there. You both were battling for that going into tonight's race. Do you have a little more reassurance here now that you've taken over the points lead, a little more convincingly heading into the stretch to the end of the regular season?
I mean, yes, in a way. I mean, I already had a pretty good buffer over 16th, and now I have an even better, bigger buffer over 16th. So, in that sense, I don't think I really have to worry about making the playoffs at this point, as long as I don't just, DNF the next, however many races are left, which, actually is possible in this league. But I don't think I really have to worry about that. But at the same time, getting the points lead with the format we have, I don't think it means anything. I don't think there's any bonus points going to the playoffs. We just have these eliminations. So, whether I've, been the regular season first or 16th, I don't think it'll make any difference at all. But like you said, having that big of a buffer over 16th, I can go into the next handful of races until the playoffs start stress-free, and then I guess figure out the 1v1 matchups or whatever. I'm not sure exactly how the format works, but the eliminations. So, I guess I'll just go into the next handful of races stress-free and drive like I drove tonight, and maybe that'll keep paying off. We'll see.
Well, hey, you've got the win tonight. That's all that matters. 2 wins on the season. You're now tied for third on Monday Night Racing. All-time win, so I'm sure that definitely feels good. You talked about the Corey Highland special. GT4 is at Long Beach. Just before we let you go, any quick thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I don't really know what to expect exactly. I've driven Long Beach in an Indy car, and I know that track will kick your ass, for sure. It's unforgiving, a little bit like the Chicago street circuit in a way, where you've got walls on both sides, and you make a mistake. There's no, I missed the corner, or there's no I was sliding into the grass. It's just you make a mistake, you're in the wall. I've never driven the GT4 Porsche, but so I really don't have anything to I can't really go off anything for that, but it's got to be easier than driving an Indy car on that track. So I'm glad I at least have some laps on the track and that I have already purchased it. I think I'll have to purchase the car, and I'm usually road courses in most leagues. I'm a top 5 driver, but there's always a couple that are like just lights out fast. So Will Rogers, he's always really good at road courses, so he'll be up there. I don't know if Corey's going to make his return or not, but if he does, I assume he picked that combo for a reason. I assume he's done it before. I assume he's good at it. So if he makes his comeback, then maybe he'll be one to watch too. But if we come out of there with another top 5, just keep top 5 in them to death. But also nothing to lose, so might as well go for the win.
Points leader heading into the rest of the regular season and the next one at Long Beach. Adam, congratulations on this crazy win from Bristol. We certainly appreciate the time, and best of luck into the next race at Long Beach. We'll see you then. Congratulations.
Thank you, Kenneth.
That's Adam Cabot, driver of the 17, who captures his second win of the year. We'll toss it back to the second place driver who's caught up with Dylan Connolly right now. That is the 51 of Cole Cabrey. Dylan.
First off, congratulations, Cole, on your second place finish. Another interesting feat that you had in this race. You were the highest rated finisher that finished with a 0x. So congratulations to you there for not hitting anything like everyone else. But what was the strategy going into this race tonight?
Just survived the last couple of weeks. I seem to wreck or get wrecked or something happened to where I don't finish these races. And I think I finished 1 and then missed 2, and then the other 2 or whatever it is, I've gotten wrecked. So I just need to finish, get off in the playoffs. And I think hopefully that puts me somewhere in the 20s. I was 30th going into tonight.
So you have a couple interesting races coming up. Was this kind of one of the bigger wild cards that you thought would happen here? Have Gen 4s at Atlanta coming up. You have, of course, next week the Corey Highland special of Porsches at Long Beach. I mean, were there any that just stood out, or was this the one you were like, oh man, I don't know what's going to happen tonight?
To be honest, I try not to look at the schedule. I just go with what we're going that night, not try to think about it too much and figure out what to do from the start of practice. But no, I mean, tonight I knew it was probably going to be one of my better shots at getting a good finish, just staying out of trouble, because some of these guys can get a little wild, and some of these plate tracks and where everyone's bunched up. I mean, everyone's good, but when it comes to something that trucks at Bristol that takes some speed, I feel like it separates the field and it puts on a good race.
Well, it was fun to watch you move back and forth throughout the field. Before we let you go, anyone you want to thank?
Yeah, definitely speed factor, always making the right calls, Reckless Society, and Chase for helping me out and letting me in tonight.
Well, Cole, appreciate the time and congratulations on the P2 tonight. Good luck the rest of the way into the playoffs and beyond.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
That was Cole Cabry. We'll send it back to Kenneth.
And after Cole Cabry comes home in second, we'll bring it to the other Chase, or the other Cabry rather. This is Chase in the 39 who comes home in third. Scott Shive, you've got him.
Well, Chase, thank you for joining us tonight. First off, congratulations to your recent engagement to Haley Deegan. That is such an awesome thing. Just wanted to congratulate you, but also congratulate you on a awesome P3 finish. That was a race of attribution, race of survival. What was that race like for you?
I've run plenty of Bristol races, and it seems to tend to always be the same thing. You got to keep your track position. It's extremely tough to pass, and just trying to play out your pitch strategy right so that you just keep cycling out to the front. And then, fortunately enough, it worked out into my favor with me, Cole, and Adam ended up all being on the same strategy, and it was a strategy that paid off. I've had a terrible go at it this season. I missed Watkins Glen, actually due to the engagement. So I missed Watkins Glen, and then I had Indy got wrecked. Daytona was the only other race I finished. Michigan wrecked, Charlotte wrecked, and Watkins Glen I missed. So that helps us a ton in the points. It's like I said, it's been a terrible season thus far for myself. I just hope to have some more good runs. Like I said, Bristol's one of those places that's really tough. I don't even know where we go next, but hopefully we can just continue, get on a little streak right here of top 5 runs and knock out a couple wins.
Absolutely. Next week we'll be heading to Long Beach in the GT4 Porsches. You have.
All right, take out that top 5 run there.
Oh, you never know, Chase. You have done amazing tonight. You talk about that rough season, but you had a solid points finish tonight. This probably should move you into that top 16. Chase, you're a great racer. You should hopefully make it into our playoffs. But what does that look like next week with the Long Beach at GT4? What you mentioned that no top 5. Why do you say that?
Well, I don't even know which way the track goes. I'm gonna have to actually do some testing. Normally for this deal, I got home with 1 minute left to go before we got into qualifying. So qualifying was my first laps, and I've done that for like 2 weeks in a row now. So that's gonna be a struggle because I got to figure out which way the course goes before I even figure out how to get fast. So we'll figure it out, I guess. I guess I actually have to put in a little bit of practice this week. And hopefully, I don't know, we could sneak out of there pretty decently. But it's going to be different. There's going to be no cautions. I don't know if they're going to throw a halfway caution or what. So pitch strategy is going to be big. And just staying on the racetrack, I think you could sneak away with a top 10.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned that you've got a week to practice, a pretty long time. We'll be glad to see you next week. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I got to thank the Speed Factor guys. We had actually a pretty good run, all of us. So even Alex got wrecked a few times and still managed to come back to 12th. So hopefully it helps us all in the points. We get up and with the way the playoff format's working, you got to get up and be inside the top 5. Because otherwise, if you're 16th, you got to battle whoever's leading the points, which obviously they put good races together. So you want to be higher up there so you ain't got to battle Bigford or Cabot, Sora, Miranda, those guys. Hopefully we can get up there in the points and be able to put together good playoffs.
Absolutely. We'll be looking for you to move through the point standings. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
I appreciate it, y'all.
Back to you, Kenneth.
So that is Chase Cabry bringing up the rest of the top 3, and it's probably a shame, Dylan, that Chase doesn't really know this Long Beach track because it is one of the best street circuits out there, hosted many open wheel races, but it's going to host a GT4 showdown for the next race of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Mach10 Digital, November 20th, 8 p.m. Eastern. You'll find it right here on the same place, twitch.tv/Podium Esports. Dylan, your thoughts on our street course racing next week?
Well, they mentioned it last week or last interview. there'll be no cautions except for maybe a halfway break, but we're going to see who can really drive, because I think you had 6 or 7 different guys you thought tonight, man, they were going to go win the race, and then they didn't win the race and didn't even finish top 10. I mean, Adam Cabot's a really good driver, but until the last 20 laps, I never thought, man, I think Adam Cabot's going to win this race. So you'll see that differently next week at Long Beach. The guys that can drive and know how to drive that car, which is a very difficult car to drive if you haven't driven it before. You'll find out who can drive next week with that combo.
Well, tonight was mentally draining for the drivers. Scott, it is going to be physically
and the
draining
broadcasters.
Yeah, and the broadcast is a little bit tonight, but it's going to be physically draining for those who are on the track next week just because of how rough of a surface Long Beach is. And while Adam Cabot says that next week's race isn't much to worry about with that buffer to the top 16, certainly comes off of the survival he had tonight at Bristol Motor Speedway. It'll change the complexion of the points as we move into the end of the regular season.
Absolutely. Just like Dylan said, we will see who the drivers are. You know, we moved from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast of California, and you know, street circuits, they're bumpy, they're concrete, they're flat surfaces. There's not going to be much banking here because it is on the street. Long Beach is a difficult circuit with many twists, turns, and fast straightaways, so it's really going to come down to who can drive the best.
We'll see who that driver is. We have many different winners so far in Season 7. Adam Cabot becomes the most recent to notch 2. The 17 celebrates here at the Last Break Coliseum after a hard running of 250 laps in this Highland Homes Roofing 250. That'll bring it to the end of our coverage tonight on Podium Esports. So for Ford Martin and everyone at Monday Night Racing, Paul Sutton and Michael Hall in race control, for Ryan Bauer at Podium Esports, our camera builder Dougie Beard, our overlay builder Michael Hall, for Cameron Arbanon on Podium Esports social media, and for our crew on the broadcast tonight, for our producer Ryan Bauer, and for my colleagues in the booth Dylan Connolly and Scott Shive, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Thank you so much for watching our coverage from Bristol. Congratulations to Adam Cabot. We'll see you on the West Coast in Long Beach next Monday night.